Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the singing of O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Record of attendance, Linda, you're good? Declarations of conflict of interest? Approval of agenda, any additions or deletions? And I see there's 2 additions. I have 12A. 12A is Tri-County Multicultural Festival signage. 12B, Friends of the Art Gallery, Maud Lewis Street. I'll hit the buttons and see what comes up. Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Your Worship. I got maybe one deletion, but I'd like to ask you a question about it. It's the notice of motion read parking. Are we going to be having a parking meeting in the next month or 2, do I understand?
We can't. We were supposed to have that during the winter.
Okay. If we're going to have that within the next month and a half, I can take that off and we can discuss it at that time.
Okay.
But I do have some additions.
Okay. Linda, would you just make note of that we get that meeting taken care of in the next 4 weeks at least? Okay.
Additions, the CT scanner and the med program, their presentation of last committee of the whole. Celtic Colors and their grant from the federal government, and clarification on the Dukeshire property on Argyle Street and implications of what our decision was last committee of the whole, please.
So those are 12C, D, and E. Thank you. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just 2 additions. One is FCM and 2 is Killam Building. Thank you.
F and G. Killam Building. Councillor McIsaac?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, we had, I thought, a couple of meetings ago, to the singing of O Canada, we thought we were going to have a CD of O Canada. We've come anywhere with that? This evening,
that on H?
well, probably you can put it on H, but if we can do it up whenever, very quickly, it's not a big thing. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Dennis.
South End Sitting Park. The South End Sitting Park.
Okay, go ahead. That's 12I. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Good. CAO?
No, sorry.
Come on, we're almost through the alphabet. I don't think there was anything. There's something I thought I wanted to add, but I don't think so. Good. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Approval of minutes. Committee of the Whole, June the 9th, 2014.
So moved.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. B, Committee of the Whole, June 23rd, 2014.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Committee of the Whole, June 26th, 2014.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Mooney, seconded Councillor Dennis. Any discussion?
Questions?
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Town Council, June 12th, 2014. So moved
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Presentation, Canadian Union of Postal Workers. Welcome. If you want to come up to the microphone and you can tell us your name and who you represent, that would be great. I think the microphone should be on. He'll turn them, he'll make sure the microphone's on for you, George. Welcome.
Okay, I'm George Nickerson, and I'm with the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. I'm the coordinator of the Save Canada Post campaign for Eastern Canada, and I'm a hometown boy from Yarmouth originally. Was here up until just a few years ago. So what brings us here today, and I'm sure we've all heard about it, last December 11th, the Canada Post, I was going to say the Conservative government because that's really who did announce it, but Canada Post announced that they were a 5-point plan to save money. So what they did is they talked about community mailboxes, and I'll go into it more detail later, but increasing the price of stamps and all that stuff. So what we're here to do is we're here to ask for the municipality, or the town of Yarmouth, I'll be asking the municipality too, to pass a resolution to try to stop the cuts that Canada Post are proposing, and save some jobs in Yarmouth for one thing, and save home delivery. And I certainly believe that this is goes way beyond postal services. This is the gutting of public services right across Canada, and we've seen all kinds of that in the news. So I gave some packages this morning. I think everybody has them, so we're just going to go through those quickly. If you note the second little grouping of papers, and that's the municipalities and towns and cities right across the country that have already passed resolutions. And the number is, it's up over 80 now.
Just
and
one sec. Did you have a question?
Yeah, well, it's not so much a question, it's just that if you delivered this afternoon, this was sitting on my desk now, and I never had any time to read anything. Haven't got a clue what I know that cuts are coming to households and whatever, but the information and the package that you delivered this morning, I just got them just now.
Yeah,
and I never had time to go over them or read them. So it's unfortunate that this package has just been delivered, although I've been following through the news of what is really happening. It's kind of a shame that myself and fellow councillors, I'm sure, have never had really time to go through this very big package, actually, and it's very important, and I'm sure that it is to you and to the people that live in the town of Yarmouth and across Canada and the county. So what deliberates here this evening, it might not be fruitful. I'm not saying it's not going to be, but I know what's really happening, but the information that you gave was for this morning. We never received it till just now.
I understand that, and I apologize for the lateness of the packages, but like I
Thank you,
mentioned,
Worship.
I'm the coordinator.
That's okay. We don't have to make a decision tonight.
Yeah,
We
exactly,
don't
and that's
have
what
to
I
make a
was
decision
leading to,
tonight.
right?
So you provide us with what information, you have 10 minutes to do that. You provide us with the information, and then we can bring this to the committee of the whole if that's where we decide to go. So
Okay.
we're good. We'll have time to read it. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr.
and
Nicholson.
I will be going through it briefly. And so, as I said, we have the list of municipalities there, and I'll just highlight in Nova Scotia, Antigonish, the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, Colchester County, Truro, Westville, and there are some more that aren't on the list, but we never got the actual...
I think we were one of them, George.
No, not this time.
Not this time?
No, it was last time. I'm gonna, I'll get to that, yeah. So, yeah, so, and there are more, but we didn't get actual copies of the resolution, so we're not allowed to say that they've passed it until we get the actually in our hands, right? So that's why the numbers are higher than that, for sure. So as I mentioned, on December 11th, 2013, Canada Post talked about their 5-point plan that they had. So the first part of it was community mailboxes. And there they talk about 1/3 of Canadian households that get door-to-door delivery. Well, those numbers are skewed a little bit because they're not considering an apartment building where it's in the lobby. They say that's not door-to-door delivery. And so there's really only 25% of the country that actually get it in community mailboxes. And those of you that have ever followed any of the postal stuff and that, we fought hard against that too back when they first started it. And we actually were successful right here in Yarmouth by getting the Sprucewood subdivision was in group boxes, and we got that converted back to door-to-door delivery. There was a Belmont Crescent and Havelock Drive, some of that. So we've done this before and we've come out of it okay. So we're hoping, you know, that we'll see, and I think when I'm done, I'm hoping that you'll see how absurd this plan really is from a business perspective, if that's the argument they're using. So besides the community mailboxes, a new approach to pricing letter mail, and what that is that the average citizen gets a big increase and big business gets a small increase. That's how they decided to do it. And also, they're doing an increase. They are claiming that letter mail volumes are dropping, and we're not disputing that. Letter mail volumes are dropping. We don't think they're dropping at the rate that they say, but we do realize that they're dropping. So that's where they're trying to get more revenue on something that's actually dropping off the business. So that doesn't make much sense to me. They're talking about expanding convenience through postal franchises, like you see in different drugstores and corner stores and that across the country. But what they're really doing is using that as a reason to privatize the public postal service. The example I always like to use is in Antigonish. They actually share a parking lot, the corporate retail outlet and the private franchise. They share a parking lot. It's, I don't know if you've ever been in Antigonish, but it's the Shoppers Drug Mart. You go right in the same parking lot for the two places. And what they did right after they opened that, all of a sudden it was, oh, there's no business over at the Antigonish office, so they cut back hours, they cut positions, and they continue to do that right across the country. Streamlining operations, you've already seen the effects of that here. I think there's been 3 full-time jobs lost here since they started sending the mail to Halifax. So if the town itself mails something out to the citizens, that actually goes to Halifax, gets run through a machine, and then sent back to Yarmouth, where before we used to just sort it here. And that's becoming even bigger than the smaller places like Yarmouth. They're actually closing a plant in Oshawa, 160 jobs, moving everything to London, where they have the machines. And also addressing the cost of labor. And again, that's probably a touchy subject for a lot of people, but these are good paying jobs that are in our communities, and these people spend their money in the communities, and where the money goes now is out of communities because it goes to the big business. So the next page, it's what our plan would be. So our first statement that we've said right from the beginning is that Canada Post is owned by the citizens of Canada. It's not owned by big business, but that seems to be who gets all the good breaks from it. So the example, postage rates, 35 to 59% for individuals, 15 to 19% for businesses. And the Canada Post Service Charter actually says that it can't be more than the rate of inflation, but I guess that charter doesn't matter. Accessible delivery, and that's going to the door. We all know it's going to cause issues, people with mobility issues, seniors, to get out and get their mail. Keeping corporate post offices open. We think that's important. It's the largest retail infrastructure in the country is Canada Post. It's all there and they don't want to use it. Instead, they're trying to close them down. We, rather than just coming in and saying you're doing it wrong, we've actually come up with a plan. And that is postal banking is one aspect of it. And it's worked in many countries. Switzerland is the perfect example because Deepak Chopra, who's the CEO of Canada Post, his idea.
What is postal banking, George?
That's, well, up until 1968, it was actually offered here in Canada. The post office actually runs a bank. And what it is, and it takes many different forms now. It may not be a full banking service, but a lot of it is geared around the fact, again, that there's 6,000 places. There's 3,000 communities that have a post office but don't have a bank. And also for people who, on the fringes, right, that can't get a bank account on the big banks. And these are no-fee accounts, and it's been proven to work. So I don't want to go into a lot of detail. There is actually a report at the back of the package for you to take a look through at your leisure that talks about postal banking and the fact that it does work. Transparency and accountability, and that's why I was here, if you remember, in 2008, 2009. I see a couple of familiar faces from then. And we talked about the strategic review that they were doing. And, but they weren't actually asking anybody. They were just kind of doing their own thing, right? And they called it being transparent, and it really wasn't. And we had over 600 municipalities write letters then, you know, saying that we want to be consulted on this. What you're doing in our communities, we want to be consulted. So they did that. They didn't do it as well as we wanted them to, but it did happen. So they come up with the review, and that said that in 5 years they would do another one. Well, 5 years will be this fall. And instead, they've decided to they forgot about that, and they've rammed in this stuff here that they're doing. Last December is when they put it out. And interesting to note that it was the day after the House rose for the Christmas break, but the Conservative government had a prepared statement for it. And they continually say that Canada Post is at arm's length. But it's obvious that they're not all the time. And a greener post, the new plan for Canada Post, every letter carrier in the country is going to be driving a car around to do it instead of walking. Obviously, there's some climate issues there, environmental issues. And respect and decent working conditions. I know people, you hear a lot, lazy postal workers and all that kind of stuff, but we have the second highest injury rate of any career in the country, right? It's only beat out by mining. So it happened. There's lots of slips and falls. I mean, you all know if you're walking 10, 12 kilometers out there in the winter, you're going to fall down sometimes. It happens. So we just want good working conditions and some respect again, because taking jobs out of communities that are decent, well-paying jobs and trading them in for minimum wage jobs just doesn't help the community at all. So the next few pages, or the next little package there, and that just talks again about Canada Post. The only thing they're looking at is cutting, and we're talking about increasing services and increasing revenue. So they've based all this plan on the Conference Board report, the Conference Board of Canada report that interestingly was commissioned by Canada Post, paid for by Canada Post, and the CEO of Canada Post actually sits on the board of directors of the Conference Board of Canada, and big surprise, it came out saying exactly what they wanted it to say. So we just want to just go through those right quickly. Canada Post says it has lost lots of money. Well, that's wrong. If you go a couple of pages in, you'll see profits, dividends, and income tax for Canada Post. And it just shows the numbers right down through over the last, since 1989, so 25 years. And showing from 1996 right up till 2011, it showed a profit. And in 2011, there was a loss, but that was the year Canada Post chose to lock out workers, lost about a month's worth of revenue into the corporation. There was a one-time benefit increase due to a pension adjustment. And also, the Canada Post had to pay a huge settlement to the Public Service Alliance of Canada, pay equity settlement, because women had been making approximately 70% of what men were making at the post office at the time. So that went through. So that shows some big numbers there. That was between 150 and 250 million, and their losses were 188 million. So without that pay equity claim, they could have made money again. The report by the conference board, which I mentioned, the 1/3 of households. Canada Post says only 1/3, and try to make it sound like we're the privileged few, but that's not, the case of it. And again, the conference board's report claims that the highly developed financial service sector would prevent our post office. And again, I'll use Switzerland as the main example, right? I think their banking system's probably a little bit more advanced than ours, because that's where we all hide our money. When we have it, we take it to Switzerland instead of putting it in our banks here. So they must have a pretty advanced banking system over there. And I just heard, that's probably been a month or so ago now, but the Royal Bank announced earnings of $2.2 billion in the first quarter. And I'm sure all the other banks were comparable to that. So if they're making that kind of money, there is room for a little bit extra there. So, and if you do up the numbers on that sheet, if you were to give them a quick add up, it's around $1.5 billion that the corporation has paid to the government of Canada in the form of dividends and taxes over that 16-year period. So it's not that the post office is never going to be, or has never been self-sufficient. It certainly has showed that it has. So the next couple of pages, again, nothing really big on those. It's just more information, the positions of the different parties federally on the Canada Post situation. And then just quickly on the postal banking again. Postal banking is lucrative. If you just look at the little bullets that you see there. In Italy, 48% of the post office profits were brought in by postal banking. The social and economic benefits of postal banking, and I mentioned those earlier when you talk about communities that don't have banks and people that don't have the ability to get a bank account, and they end up going to those cash for money or, the money store and them type places and just getting charged exorbitant amounts just to cash the check that they've earned at work. So in the report, that is the last piece of the package there, it does say that postal banking could work here at home. And also interesting to note that Canada Post did a study on postal banking, and their study came back and told them that it was a win-win situation. There was no reason not to get into it, and they threw that report away. They hid it. Through the Freedom of Information, we managed to get a copy of it, but 730-something pages were redacted out of an 800-page report. So who knows what's actually in there. But it's a win-win situation, was still in the papers that we have. People support the idea of it, and like 63% agree with it. The NDP have been on board. Of course, our union's been on board, and the Universal Postal Union, which is a UN agency, and they think that post offices also should be expanding services. So what we're asking is for the resolution that you see at the front, or an adapted one that you feel may work better for Yarmouth, because that's been, the other regions have, adapted it a little bit to their reality. And just want to, the last thing, they continually tell us that the Canada Post must remain self-sufficient, they can't become a drain on taxpayers. Well, all this ends up doing, and especially the door-to-door delivery, it transfers who's paying the taxes. And I'll tell you, the town of Yarmouth is going to be on the hook for lots of stuff when these come out, right? There's the maintenance, maintenance I guess Canada Post will take care of, but the cleaning around the CMBs, if you've seen them out in the country, people throw flyers and that on the ground. The fact that they can come in and put it on any one of your homes in the town of Yarmouth on your lot without you being able to do a thing about it. They can't do it. So what happens there? Property values decrease, revenues to the town decrease, so it really becomes municipal taxes are going to support Canada Post. And I guess I'll leave it at that. I could go on and on and on, but I'll try not to.
Councillor Mooney?
Thank you, George. Good presentation, and like you said, in 2008 and 2009, we supported our local postal workers as best we could, and I don't think we have to, Your Worship, bring this to committee of the whole. I think we can take care of this tonight. So I'd like to make a motion that whereas Whereas these cuts will hurt seniors and people with disabilities in particular, and whereas Canada Post offers a public service that needs to be protected, I make a motion that the town of Yarmouth correspond with the minister responsible for Canada Post that calls on the government to reverse the changes to services announced by Canada Post and to look instead for ways to increase service and revenues in areas such as postal banking. And just, if I can speak to it just for a second. The thing I want to know, George, and I know you've been across Atlantic Canada making these presentations, and the thing that's foremost in my mind, and I know what you said about what happened in Ottawa at Christmas time, right? The decision comes out after the last day of Parliament. Is this a foregone conclusion? And
That's a very fair question, and a lot of people have that, attitude that they think it's already done. But anybody who's followed politics for years, 1988, Brian Mulroney said he was going to close every post office except for 11 in Canada, all the rural ones, and privatize the whole thing. Well, that didn't happen. And that was because of the work that our group, along with other groups, did together to get a commitment from Jean Chrétien and the Liberals that when they got elected, they would stop the cuts, and they did that. We did get that commitment. So that's something that we've been working on right now, and we do have a lot of support within the Liberal and the NDP caucus and the Bloc. It's just the Conservatives, and they voted 100% to eliminate all the services of Canada Post.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, thank you for your presentation. As stated earlier, we just received this tonight, but I know where this is going because you came before us 2 or 3 years, well, 3 or 4 years ago. I just hope that the union keeps up the fight to protect the people not in rural areas, but also in town areas, to keep postal service the way that it is now. I mean, my postal man has been with us for a number of years. He does a great job. And even his relief people do a great job. I just hope you keep up the fight instead of having these postal boxes in different key places where they're putting them now. I don't think that's the answer. It is not the answer, and I hope your union yourself keeps up the fight, and I hope you bring it to the people. And I will be supporting the motion to send a letter, a strong letter, to support the keep postal service the way that it is now. And again, I thank you very much for bringing this to us this evening.
Okay, thanks. And I would like to point out that when I brought it before, we talked about they weren't consulting. So, that's a problem. They should talk to the communities affected. Well, this time they didn't either. It was 46 communities across the country, and it was hand-picked people that got invited to go to these, to go to the consultations. And the example I can use is Fredericton, New Brunswick has passed a resolution similar to this, and that's one of the communities that they consulted in, and they said that everybody was on board with this. And that shows you right there that Fredericton City Council wasn't.
Were you going to?
And Your Worship, I'd like to send copies of this resolution to Dennis Lemelin, President of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, Greg Kerr, Member of Parliament for West Nova, and Claude Dauphin, President of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And Your Worship, just to add what George and Councillor McIsaac was saying, if we're looking for an industry or jobs to come into this community, they're, like George said earlier, they're good paying jobs. They're our friends, they're our neighbors. We play hockey with them, we play cards with them. We go to church activities with them. And if it was an industry that we're looking to bring into Yarmouth, we'd be up in Halifax banging the doors saying, let's get those 10 or 15 people back to Yarmouth and get them to work. So they're here working now. Let's keep them here and let's keep them working.
I agree. But I also agree with what Councillor McIsaac said, that I haven't even had a chance to read everything, and I wish I had, and I'm not a fan of making decisions when you listen to one side.
Yep, absolutely.
That's just my take. but I support it because I know basically what it is. So, any more, Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I as well, I support this. I certainly don't, and I know I'm not the only person. I certainly do not look forward to having Canada Post put a massive box in front of my house. Postal banking, it does work, absolutely. It works all around the world. Just recently, my husband and I were in Europe, and on one island in particular, they specialize all around the world to teach English. And there were children, there were kids, young people from all around the world that were there. And they congregated and they met in front of the post office because that's where their parents sent their money. It does work, it's all around the world. I support this. I also support the idea of let us read through this. There is a lot more information in here. Since the last time I joined your meeting at the Grand, which was very, very informative and insightful. But as I see, you have made some progress, and I'd like to read this through. So as much as, yes, I do agree, I do support it, but I will not support the motion of sending it off tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and again, I'd like to apologize for the lateness of the package. We've been really busy doing this. Councillor McIsaac said, keep up the fight. Well, we're going right across the country, and I'm, like I said, Eastern Canada, which is all of Ontario and the Atlantic provinces. So I'll take the fall on that one. It was my fault that the packages didn't get out earlier. And I can assure Councillor McIsaac, I did want to mention this to you, that we are going to keep up the fight and the struggle. But I like to turn it around too. Instead of coming here saying we need the town of Yarmouth to do this and this, I like to say, what does the town of Yarmouth need us to do to keep mail delivery in Yarmouth? So if you have any requests, certainly there, we'll do whatever we can.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis?
Yes, I as well support this, and I really don't want to see us lose any jobs. We certainly need jobs here, and that's the last thing that we want. So I do support it, but like everyone else, we need to read it first. Thank you.
It's
Councillor McIsaac?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Now, I only brought the point up that I haven't read what you sent here this evening, but in a long roundabout way, I really don't have to read what you're saying here, because it's been in the media for not only the last week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. It's been in the media for the last couple of years. I am in full support of you being here tonight presenting this. I only wish that I had it to ask you more questions, but my questions are very simple, very simple. Is it going to affect jobs in Yarmouth? And my answer, without even asking you the question, is yes, it is. Do I have to walk to get my mail? Yes, I do, if this goes what they want to do. Yes. Do I want to? No. Does anybody else want to at my age and anybody else that gets older? No. Does anybody want to go upstairs and downstairs? No. I love my postal worker. I really do. He's been a really good guy, or she's been a really good girl, delivering the mail for a number of years. I so happen to have the same postal worker, which I really think the world of, because he's very accurate. He's there on time. When there's somebody else that's not there, they're not on time, because he has a schedule that he meets, and he does it day after day after day, 5 days a week. And we ought not lose sight of just reading this material. There's lots of material that we get in the mail that we don't read, right? I only pointed it out to you just for the fact that I pointed it out to you, that we didn't get it. And there's lots of stuff that we get in the mail that we don't read. All of us don't read. But I'm up on this, and I know what you're talking about. And I know what the Conservative government is doing, and I know why they want to do it. And I have no problem voting tonight that we send a letter, a strong letter, to our Conservative government or our member of Parliament saying that we're in displeasure of having our postal services be cut back or whatever that they want to do. We want to have door-to-door delivery. We don't want postal boxes like they're doing now. We want it in our community as it is, and as it has been for the last 100+ years. And if this government can't supply the service that they're doing, then we should put another government in. That's my thought, that's my wish, and that is my vote. And I thank you again for coming this evening and giving this presentation. Even though I haven't read what you said here, it's like I said, I've been following the news and I know what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think we all know what's going on, just a little confusing sometimes. Should you read it, shouldn't you read it? And in no, regardless of what happens here, it'll come, it either happens tonight or it comes back. But I just think, for myself, I need to read it. I need to understand, and so it's not that it won't happen, it's just, anyway. I just got another argument point. Councillor Dennis?
I just got back. Oh. We just got back from a conference in Niagara, and it was brought up in Niagara, and it was defeated. So about the mail, I was trying to find it on the computer while you were talking there, but I couldn't find it. But we just found it here, so it wasn't adopted at the time. So.
Yeah, and there have been a few places that have defeated the motion, and actually at the FCM, and I'm not sure if you were there, Mayor Mood?
I wasn't, but a couple of the
Yeah,
councillors were.
so it got defeated there.
Yes.
But I think the problem there is, if you remember the resolution that was there, it only spoke to door-to-door delivery.
Yes.
So there was a lot more municipalities represented there that don't have door-to-door delivery already than ones that do. So it wasn't a big surprise that it got voted down there. And that's, again, our fault for not putting forward the right, getting the wording right on the resolution.
So what I'm saying to you is, tomorrow morning, if this goes through, great. If it doesn't go through tomorrow morning, Facebook's going to be, well, some people don't want the jobs. That's just not true. But, you know, that's what's going to happen. That's not true. So, did somebody else have their light on? You did? Go ahead, Councillor McIsaac.
Well, Your Worship, in all due respect, I don't run or I don't drive on Facebook. I don't
No,
give a...
neither do I.
No, but you said it. I don't really care about Facebook. I care about facts that are before us right now. Facebook, I signed off of Facebook a few months ago. I don't really care what people say about what's happening around. I really don't. If people's got anything to say about what's going on in the town of Yarmouth, they'll either call me or go on the town of Yarmouth website. You know, people that live in Calgary or Ontario or Pubnico or wherever they are, that's got something to say about running the town of Yarmouth, that's fine. Move in the town of Yarmouth. But here, sitting here now, I support the public employees of the I can't stop and think here of the postal workers of Canada, and I support them fully. I don't really care about Facebook. I really don't. There might be a lot of people around this council that support Facebook. I personally don't, and I don't care what people think about Facebook. I really don't. It's here and the now. I don't represent Facebook or Spacebook, whatever you want to call it. I really don't. It's Yarmouth Town and Yarmouth Town Council and the taxpayers of Yarmouth. And this is very important to me, and I'm sure of all the people of my age that have mail delivered door to door. And I don't have to read what you said just because you were CUPE or whoever your postal worker represents. You are here giving a presentation.
Okay.
I think it's a facts-finding thing that I've been really briefed on through the media and just briefly through hearing what you said. It's enough for me to say I support what your union and you are doing. I know you, and I know you from Yarmouth, and you've been a postal worker and a postal worker in Yarmouth, and I take you, you know, for fact that you were doing what you should be doing to represent all of Canada and people in the town of Yarmouth. So I don't have any problem supporting you or supporting the motion. I just hope when somebody supports, goes with the motion, and I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Already been seconded. Thanks. Councillor Dawes, one more, you're the last.
Question.
Yeah, thank you. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Nay. So we're 1, 2, 3, we're good. Motion passed. So you're good to go. Me. And did you vote nay? The counselor does. Good.
Okay, thank you.
You're good. It's not a but. It's good. Thank you for coming
Thank you.
and for listening.
Thanks, George.
Taxi bylaw, second reading. So I have the taxi bylaw in front of me. So this is where, if anyone wants to speak to this, is there somebody here? Would you like to come? If you want to come right to the microphone and give your name and tell us where you're from, who you're representing. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Rose Boyd from Yarmouth Town Taxi. Okay, I have gone over the current proposed changes to the taxi bylaws, and there are a few issues that concern me. I am glad you are proposing an advisory committee, which will include 4 licensed drivers. I hope that it will be representative of not just one company, as there are currently 5 companies and we all have different points of view when it comes to the taxi industry. The second issue is the medical requirement. I only have the minutes from the former Taxi Association and Yarmouth Taxi Committee, so I don't have the exact date that it was passed through the former council for us to be able to follow the provincial guidelines of having a medical done every 5 years instead of 3. But it was discussed and passed shortly after March of 2009. Any of the drivers with medical issues are tested more often anyway, and not everybody has a doctor, so this becomes not only an extra expense, but sometimes pretty difficult to get a doctor to fill out the paperwork. Another proposed amendment that makes no sense to me is why it is being proposed that we must wear military-type military-type shirts with collars and sleeves, socks in our shoes, and no t-shirts. I can understand cracking down on those drivers that lack personal hygiene or being against muscle shirts or spaghetti strap type shirts, but the warmer weather is here, and I try to dress as cool as possible for sitting in a car for long periods of time. I would appreciate the same consideration people have for dogs and small children not to get overheated. I feel almost bullied by all the new rules, especially when we are still getting no help with the problem of illegal taxis, yet we still pay the town $50 per driver and $100 per car for basically a laminated picture of ourselves. Finally, the issue of a rate increase, which obviously we're the only ones here representing that part. They discussed going up every year until we hit $10 is just a great money grab for those owners or operators that are of retirement age or close to it. But I'm only 40, so according to Stephen Harper, I have 27 more years of this job to go. And with no bus, I prefer to keep my customers and not force them to go to the illegal taxis. I really hope this is the last time we need to appear in front of the whole council instead of having a discussion around a table as an advisory committee, because I'm not very good at public speaking, but I can't let my customers suffer because we don't have a voice other than mine. Thank you.
Actually, you did very well. You did. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, Councillor McIsaac?
Well, thank you, and I thought you did very well, and I'm not very good at public speaking either. But here it goes. This question's to the CAO. The requirements, what this lady just gave to us, and wearing T-shirts and what have you, and the recommendations that are brought, who brought them forward?
Go ahead, CAO.
The, specifically the clothing section was taken.
That's correct, clothing
I
section,
believe
yeah.
it was taken from the Halifax Regional Municipalities Taxi Bylaw.
Okay, but we don't live in Halifax, of course.
That's
And
right.
yeah, and we do go online and look and see what other places are doing, and see how we can adapt to things. But you're saying that T-shirts, ties, and what have you?
It was written in the new bylaws you guys gave us after
Yeah.
the last meeting that you wanted us to wear. I can find it here.
If you could read it again, it would be
Every
great.
driver will-
You have to bring the microphone close to you so I can hear it a little bit better and the public out there.
Every driver, while in control of a taxi or accessible taxi, shall wear a shirt or military-type blouse with a collar and sleeve.
Oh, hold on just one second. You said military-type blouse?
With a collar and sleeves.
What does that mean?
I'm really not sure.
Well, it means a shirt, I would assume, like a shirt with sleeves and a collar, like a short sleeve shirt or. It's not a t-shirt. It's not a t-shirt.
Okay.
No T-shirts, ankle-length trousers or dress shorts which are worn within at least 3 inches of the knee, socks and shoes.
Now, hold on. Dress shorts?
We are allowed to wear shorts
You're
as
allowed
long
to
as
wear
they're
shorts.
within 3 inches of our knee.
Okay.
We have to wear socks and shoes.
3 inches above your knee?
Yeah. Within 3 inches of the
Okay.
knee.
Go ahead.
Socks and shoes, I like flats, and you really can't wear socks with flats.
So this is the way they dress in Halifax, basically. This is where we got this
guessing.
bylaw from. Am I correct, you're the CAO? Yes, it is. So you and your other taxi, you're here tonight representing your taxi company.
Yes.
You're not happy with this?
Well, no, because, I mean,
So
I
what
do
would you
agree we
suggest?
need to dress professionally, cleanly.
So what would you suggest?
Just as long as they're clean. Like, I do know there are drivers out there that are not the cleanest on themselves, but I like to think I am. And I shouldn't be dictated what I can wear. If it's a hot day, if I wear a T-shirt, I mean, no big bands or something really outrageous and obnoxious, but, you know, just a T-shirt. It's hot outside. My
So-
husband is a taxi
okay.
driver, and that's all he'll wear is T-shirts, so.
This report came out, and you're here looking at it, and did you have any comments? Did you write in any comments? Did you send in any comments on this?
No, I just read the bylaws you gave us. We've been here 5 times now.
No, it's a
And
public
it's-
hearing, that's what, we're here to hear the
Okay.
public right now.
Yeah,
So
okay,
that's-
but I'm only
that's-
asking the question, so I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
no.
it's not going to be passed tonight, I don't think, is it, CAO? This is the last reading? Okay, and, yep, this came from the PAC? It came from the taxi by, I'll let you speak.
Go ahead, CAO.
So the current status of our taxi bylaw is it is outdated. We don't have a taxi advisory committee because there is no longer a taxi association, which is written right into our bylaw. So without an association, our committee doesn't have members, so we can't have. So our bylaw review committee took and reviewed this, made a few administrative changes so that we can form a committee again with naming just drivers and operators as opposed to members of an association. This particular change here on the clothing, the way it was written before, talked about neat and clean and then talked about things you couldn't wear, didn't talk about things you should wear. And so the Halifax, the wording from the Halifax bylaw was adopted or proposed here because it's more instructive perhaps. So again, if you agree with what you see in the bylaw tonight, you can pass second reading and it will become the law. If you wish to have changes made, refer it back to staff and we'll make changes, bring it back for first reading again. If you want to just think about it, you could table it until the next meeting and then no work will be done, just time for you to consider, maybe seek opinion. You have a number of options, but this is the public hearing for second reading.
Your Worship, I would like to table this and get some feedback from yourself, madam, the taxi company that you represent and other ones, if you could inform them. And hopefully they have read this or seen this taxi bylaw, and perhaps we can come to a mutual agreement at the next meeting of this bylaw.
Okay, that's
So-
actually why the taxi association and everything fell apart, because we don't get along as a group of people. There's 5 different companies. one or two of them like to come in here and go to the bylaw enforcement, and we want.
Well,
and
I'm
that's
talking to you
why
this
should-
evening. I'm talking to you. And if you think that there's a problem with the other ones, well, you don't necessarily have to,
No, and that's
comply with
why
the other
I'm-
ones. But
I'm hoping we
if you're
don't have
not,
to be
if you're not
for
happy with
everybody.
this one, you have a company that I see, another lady that a company that's been in service of the town of
Well, she
Yarmouth for
owns
the number,
yeah, she
for
owns my
a number of long years. And she does a service for the town of Yarmouth for a number of years. And if she's not happy, then I'm not happy. And if we can make this work with a compromise out of a T-shirt or the shirt that I wear, or 3 inches or 6 inches of shorts, or socks or no socks or sandals, whatever, I'm sure we can come to some accommodation and come to some agreement to make this work. So, Your Worship,
Well, first of all.
Can we
we're-
table
we're in-
this?
No, we can't, not yet. We're in a public meeting, so I just want to make sure that anybody else wants to speak to this issue can come forward and speak, and then we can have any motions afterward. So is there any, you're finished? Are you finished?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You did great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the issue? Ma'am, did you want to?
I don't
Just
mean
tell
to
us-
steal the show here, but
Just tell us, well,
go
no,
ahead.
it's a public meeting.
Pat Adams, and I'm with Yarmouth Town Taxi.
Welcome,
I'm
Pat.
co-owner. I think the issue here is we can't get them together, and it has been that way for years. Like, we started a committee before, nobody wanted, or association, they don't want to join, and it's like, she was trying to explain, like our license, for instance. Now, I have to have a medical each year because of my age. At her age, they have to have it every 5 years through the Department of Highways, from there, registered up there. So what they're saying is they don't see why they should have to have a medical with the town, like every year, when they can, get by with your Class 4 license every 5 years. So that was a big issue. But like I say, we're trying to get them all together, but they don't want to come together.
Okay,
So
all right.
basically, she pretty well summed it up. You see what I mean? It's,
Thank
so
you.
so that'd be all.
Thank you.
And just,
Go ahead.
before you leave, and the other question she brought up was about the rates, the increasing of the rates. What was the story on that one?
Well, here a while back, George Royce had come in here and mentioned about the
You're all
rate.
in together with
But we
the,
haven't heard any more about it. The public certainly doesn't want to raise, as you know.
no. Okay.
Okay.
I think there's three issues there, Your Worship. One is
Yeah, I've got
the
them.
rate, one is the
Hospital,
apparel,
medicals.
and the other one is the
Medical,
medical.
yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, CAO.
So in terms of going forward here with these number of issues, the main thrust of the amendments that are being proposed here is really to change the membership of the Taxi Advisory Committee so that we can have a committee that can make recommendations that can involve the taxi drivers, as opposed to it being a group of council members and myself coming up. The main thrust here was to change the governance in our bylaws so that we could have a committee that can advise us on things such as rates. So we didn't discuss the rates, because that wouldn't be fair in your absence, and perhaps some of this other stuff should be dealt with in the committee, but we can't have the committee meeting until we change the bylaw. So if it's council's wish, we can go back and put those things right back the way they were in terms of clothing. Were there any other issues there? The rates we didn't touch.
The medical she mentioned.
The medical, right, we can put that back. But then I expect at some point in the future, the Taxi Advisory Committee is going to meet, and they will, at some point, recommend changes to rates, perhaps, or other aspects of the bylaw. That is their mandate, their role. So if we can just change at least the governance piece of this, then I think we can start to move forward in a consultative, cooperative way, as opposed to us guessing at what suits best. Now, there is another issue, and if I may,
Certainly.
Councillor Dennis raised it just before the meeting here, and it's got to do with insurance. We had originally put $5 million in the amendment, and now it's at $1 million, and we had some discussion. I had some discussion with the solicitor after Councillor Dennis raised the question. We'd like to look at that again to think, is $1 million the right number, or is it $2 million, whatever. But there's another aspect about the insurance too, is we'd like to consult with our own insurance company, because we might want to be a named insured within the taxi company's insurance policies, which does not cost a thing, and it's pretty standard practice, but it would provide a degree of protection to the town, that if there ever was an incident and the lawsuits started to fly, what that would mean is at least there would not be lawsuits between the taxi company and the town. It might be between somebody who was injured or suffers damage as a result of something, and they might sue us, they might sue them, but we wouldn't be suing each other.
See, that's another thing we're nervous about too. I don't mean to keep bringing it up, but we have a lot of illegal taxis here in Yarmouth. And if they do have an accident, which they have no insurance, you know, for taxiing or anything, what's going to happen to the town then if they sue you? You know what I mean? If somebody gets seriously hurt.
And that is another issue, and it's been an ongoing issue, and it's a difficult one to effectively do enforcement on unless we get some cooperation. And ironically, the people we need the cooperation from are the users of the illegal taxis, and they're using the illegal taxis for a reason, and it's probably financial. And so they're probably not likely to be cooperative. It's not an easy one to do enforcement on, and you're quite right that if we aren't making efforts to enforce on that, then we could be negligent, potentially. So that's on us to do. But it's outside of the taxi bylaw itself. The bylaw provides the regulation that we need to enforce, and then it's our bylaw enforcement officer's job to try and do his due diligence on the enforcement.
Yeah.
Good. Councillor Mooney?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you. The other thing is if we're going to set up a taxi advisory committee again, or I don't know if that's going to be the name, but obviously the taxi companies that are most interested in their business or their livelihood are here tonight. And I think once we get going, if there's, I don't know, we have to make it mandatory for everybody to be a member, but if they see it that one company's in there and they're working with the taxi advisory committee with other council members and drivers from that company, it's going to be incumbent on other companies to come in. They're not going to want somebody to have all the say. So I think it's something that we have to work on ourselves in-house to make sure that we get this advisory committee up and we get it done right again. We want input from, I know a couple of years ago we talked about the illegal cabs again, and we talked to the RCMP, and we talked to the former staff sergeant. And they tried, actually, I think they tried a sting operation there one time, and it wasn't very successful. But unless we know, and the best way to go through is that taxi advisory committee where everything's on the table and you can be frank and candid. I think we have to have that dialogue again, especially with no transit right now. These guys are legs on the ground and getting our seniors and our populations to medical appointments and groceries and shopping and drugstores and everything else. So we have to work with what we have, and these guys are great. I know I've known you for 35 years, and you do a wonderful job out there in the community. But I think just coming in tonight, and you did a great job with your presentation, is we have to work with the companies, and if all of them don't want to show up, then it's their loss. So I think we're going to have to kickstart that, and I don't know what the next, if we want to discuss about the insurance, about the dress, about rates is off the table, but the medical stuff, how do we proceed, CAO?
I think the easiest way to proceed on this, to address the insurance question thoroughly, and to I think probably the fairest thing to do is to go back and strip out everything that isn't governance related. Let's get the governance straightened out so we can have a committee that can advise council, and they can advise on dress, and they can advise on rates and all those other sort of operational issues. Let's get the insurance straightened out in the governance. So I would suggest a motion to refer it back to staff to adjust the amendments or to review the amendments to ensure that we deal with the governance issues only at this time and allow us to move forward with the committee.
Make that a motion.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Councillor McIsaac, you're like this first.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a quick question to the CAO. Of course, nothing's quick with me. The taxi bylaws and insurance, is that the only commercial entity that we bear down on, I should say, or have restricted covenants on? Do we have it the same thing for restaurants, commercial store owners, liability insurances, or what have you, household people, household insurance, residential people, postal workers that deliver mail that fall off people's steps? I mean, seriously, do we have that, or is it just taxi bylaw that we struck up at a one given time and say, okay, let's do this for taxis because they supply a transportation aspect of it? Or do we say that people go in drugstores or different stores or grocery stores that we don't have to have, they don't have to be insured for liability for people or whatever, or handling carts or whatever or something? So is that the same thing or not the same thing, or
Go ahead, CAO.
what is it? Well, I haven't finished yet, Your Worship, so let me...
Well, you asked the question.
I know, but I haven't
You gotta
finished.
you have to let him answer the question.
But you have to let me finish what I'm saying, please, Your
But
Worship.
you
So
need-
is that pretty much, I don't want to correct you, but is that pretty much
Well,
the
you're
same
not
thing?
correcting me.
No, well, I am. But
No,
is
you're
that
not.
pretty much the same thing, CAO? No, now you can,
Ask
now
the
now you can
counselor if
answer.
it's okay. So
It is
first of
okay.
all,
It is okay.
when you ask him a question, let him answer, okay?
Okay,
You
Mother.
don't have to talk for 10 minutes, just let him answer the question. CAO, go ahead.
Okay, so
Thank you.
under the MGA, councils have the authority to regulate taxis. We don't have the authority to regulate some of the commercial kind of entities that you had mentioned. We do require insurance of service providers to the town of different nature. So, for instance, our garbage collection, within our hauler contract, there is a requirement for insurance, and that isn't done through a bylaw, it's simply done through a contract. So as part of the tender process, they're required to carry a certain amount of insurance. We require insurance of contractors doing one-off construction projects, that sort of thing. We require insurance of people who are in tax arrears agreements, that they carry a certain amount of insurance in their properties. But generally speaking, unless we have the authority to regulate the service, or that we're contracting directly for the service and have the ability to require it, no, we don't. Where we don't have the authority, we don't require it.
So I guess what I'm asking, it's pretty much the same level playing field, or it's not?
It is so you have a responsibility under the MGA for taxis, and it is standard practice within taxi bylaws to require insurance.
Same as everybody else,
Same as every other municipality.
every other municipality, with taxi bylaws.
Right.
And that's it with taxi bylaws. That's nothing else for the questions that I've asked. Like for garbage pickup, you said that.
Yeah, so if services...
They have to have
services
services that apply to the town.
that we purchase,
Yeah.
service providers,
Yeah.
we'll require
But
insurance.
they're not supplying a service to the town. To the residents they are, individually. It's a private business, the same as I would if I had a
We are the
business.
regulator.
We are the regulator.
Yeah.
Because we choose to be the regulator,
Well,
or are we mandated to be the regulator?
I would ask the solicitor if we have an option of not regulating taxis. I don't know the answer to that one.
I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
Get that answer? He's looking. Councillor Dawes, did you want to?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I was going to suggest if I could butt in just for a moment.
Yep.
And if I may address this to both the ladies, Rosa and Pam, I'm part of the tax advisory. No, I'm not. On the bylaw review committee. And when we looked at this, we did not just look at this one afternoon or 1 hour. We also looked at other taxi bylaws that are out there, and it may seem as though the apparel paragraph is very restrictive. It is and it isn't, because both your safety and also the safety of your passengers is what that is focusing on. You can have a beautiful pair of sandals, but if you do, however, if you end up in an accident and it's no fault of your own, your passengers, as you are aware, your passengers are your responsibility, and if you have some difficulty getting to their aid, or if you yourself fall into any difficulty, then that's what that particular paragraph in part is trying to avoid. So it's actually working for you. And we looked at this, and actually you have to thank a couple of other people around this table for holding me down with the 3 inches above your knee. I wasn't even going to go that far. I just hope that gives you a little insight into that particular. Okay. Yes. That we're looking into, yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Are you ready, Mr. Solicitor? I can stretch this if you like.
You might not even have that answer.
Yeah,
it's
I don't want to give a quick answer that may not be correct. Let me look into it, and I'll send an email. No, I think it'd be better to, I'll send an email to the CAO, and he can circulate it to the councillors.
Is that okay?
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So there's a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded, to refer the taxi bylaw back to staff and to remove the covenants issues and what was the rest of it?
Sorry,
Get it right.
sorry, we want to bring it back with amendments only to the governance issues and insurance, and remove all of the other operational amendments.
Okay? And that was seconded? Okay, question? Yep, go ahead.
And that's to remove the, what was that again, CAO?
Go ahead.
I refer to them as operational amendments, so it would be things like the clothing and that sort of thing that are kind of not about the governance and how
Okay.
decisions or advice is given, but more
Okay,
about,
and insurance you're talking about?
the insurance will be reviewed with, and there will be.
Along with the clothing and all the other good
No, that'll
stuff?
be reviewed at this time, because it may involve things like
I can't wear my
name
miniskirt
insur-
driving taxi?
sorry?
I can't wear my miniskirt driving taxi? Is that what you're
I
saying?
can't hear you, sorry.
I can't wear my miniskirt driving taxi or nothing like that? Is that what you're saying? We have to.
Oh, no,
Okay. So that, we're going to refer that back
Yes.
to staff?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go along with that. Thank you.
Okay, question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you, ladies, both, for coming in. Rotary Club of Yarmouth. Did you want to speak to that? I thought maybe somebody was here, but...
no, that's me. Okay, so at a past council meeting, council had directed staff to redo the lease with the Rotary Club of Yarmouth for the park at the corner of Pleasant Street and Prospect Street. So it's the Rotary Park that we're all familiar with there. Now, the lease had a provision in it that they were responsible for the taxes. And so what was happening is we had this lease, they were responsible for the taxes, they would come every year and they would apply for a grant to pay the taxes, and we were providing grant. And the direction of staff was fix this. So I met with the president, Bill Newell of the Rotary Club, and we agreed, he understood what we were trying to do, simplify things a bit. And so we have agreed on the text that is before you there. Now, our solicitor has suggested, because the lease is below market value, that it would require a resolution of council. And so that's what we're looking for tonight, is a resolution to proceed with this lease.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Dawes. Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, I was sitting around the table when this agreement was drawn up. And the agreement at that time, I thought, and I could be mistaken, was that they would be solely responsible. It was the town's land, and they wanted to build something in recognition of that property. It was an old reservoir. Yes, you're right, Jim, Deputy Mayor. You're right. And they wanted to beautify it and put a gazebo and stuff like that. And they would take care of it, mow it and what have you, and plant flowers and everything. And they did for some time, but that fell by the wayside. I don't remember the taxes. Then they stopped mowing it and take care of it. Am I wrong by saying that? Phil might remember that. I don't know. Maybe you before your time, after your time. But I know that they came before council and gave a great presentation that they wanted to do this and that and the other stuff, but they would be responsible for taking care of it and everything. And taxes, that I guess we would do it in a grant in lieu of, and that was great. But then it fell by the wayside that they didn't do anything after a certain amount of time. So now they don't want to do anything but just apply for a grant. Am I correct in saying that?
Go ahead, CAO.
I don't believe at this time that anything in this lease has changed, except for there was a requirement in there for them to be responsible for the taxes. Okay? And what they were doing is requesting at first an exemption and through the bylaw, and in more recent years a grant. So the direction from council was to deal with that issue, deal with the issue of the taxes, and so that's what's changed in this lease.
Okay. So who owns the land that's there?
The town of Yarmouth.
So if we own the land, they own the gazebo that's there. We're doing all the maintenance. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense that they're even applying for exemption from taxes. Is it just because they want to say that they own that piece of property? Is that what it is? I don't know. I'm lost here. Of course, it don't take much to get me lost, but
Well, because there's an assessment value on the property.
that the town owns.
Right, right. So it has always been interpreted that the taxes that, I don't know if Linda has the wording right there regarding the taxes. Pay when due any and all taxes, rates, charges, or assessments of any kind whatsoever in respect to lands or use, or the use or occupancy of the lands. And so that's always been interpreted as they would pay the taxes that would be due on the property if it were theirs.
So now, but they don't want to do that.
Right, and we haven't made them do that. We've provided grants. Council's provided grants over the years.
We gave them the land on a pretense that they would pay the taxes,
No,
build a gazebo.
we've leased them the land
Yeah,
so
okay.
that they could develop a park,
Yeah,
right, at their expense. And we have done the maintenance. We have done
Yeah,
the mowing.
yeah.
They've done the improvements.
Yeah.
And, but the taxes that have been owing on it, we have been providing grants over the years. And so when we were dealing with this year, you recall we have a limited amount of money
Yeah.
to deal with grants.
Yeah.
The discussion was, well, why are we taking money out of our grants to do this?
Yeah.
Why don't we just exempt them within the agreement?
Okay.
And so staff,
Okay.
meeting with their president,
Okay.
agreed to change just that part of the lease and bring it back to council. And the only reason it's back here for your consideration is because it is a below-market lease, which requires a council resolution. If this was at market, I would just sign it and have it done, because it was council's direction to do it this way.
So are we setting a precedence here if we do this?
Are we setting a precedent?
Well, it can be, well, I'll ask you and I'll ask you to ask the solicitor. Are we setting a precedence here? Because we have lots of land.
We're not, I can answer that question.
Okay.
We are doing an agreement here with the Rotary Club of Yarmouth, which does not legally bind us that all other agreements we do in the future must follow this same form. So you can deal with any future agreements you do or leases that you do as you wish. And I'll use an example we talked about recently is the Killam building. There is no provision in the Killam building leases requiring anything of the tenants as far as taxes, right?
Yeah.
So it isn't that we have, I mean, we do leases, I guess we don't have a one-size-fits-all. We've done them
Okay.
sort of based on the circumstances.
So you're comfortable with this, I guess is what I'm getting
Yeah,
at?
I've been comfortable with this for the last 10 years. The only discomfort about it recently has been because of our tight budget on the grants.
Okay.
This would remove that and that bit of administration that happens every
Okay.
year of
Okay.
exchanging checks and that kind of thing.
Well, that's great. Okay, good. Thank you. You explained it very well. Thank you.
Good? So is there a motion?
I'll make that motion that we proceed with the lease as presented.
Okay. Yeah, I think we did that. Yeah.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. You're on, though.
We own the property. So long after we're gone, maybe 15 years, Jim will still be sitting at the table, but say the Tri-County Regional School Board comes in and say, we want to build an extension on the elementary school at Meadowfields, and we would like to use that property or Rotary Park. Can that park be used for any other purpose but for park? Is there anything in that lease that excludes that? Since we own it, we're paying the taxes on it now.
It's a 5-year agreement, Jeff.
Yeah, I was just looking at cancellation provisions.
on either side.
90 days notice.
90 days notice. So
Okay.
as it relates specifically to the school, though, I can give you some comfort on that one, is that that school is privately owned. It isn't owned by the government of Nova Scotia. And when the private company built their school and they leased it to the province, they bought additional lands at that time. And I think Mrs. Cassidy may have been chair of the school board at the time. I think they bought additional lands that were available at that time. So if they ever did have to expand, if that was ever in the cards, I think they have room on their
Well,
property.
but if not for a school, but for another purpose?
Yeah, we have 90 days.
Okay.
Good? Councillor Dawes?
I was just going to call for question.
Okay. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Business, cleanup after Arthur. So I think, well, I was going to say, I think everybody understands, but I don't think everyone does. So I just jotted down the notes, and it's just for information, but so that everybody's aware of it. First of all, Public Works has really gone above and beyond. I think we can all agree with that. But because there are some people in the community who aren't aware of how the cleanup works, I just want to make the following points. Public Works has been out in full force from the beginning, ensuring that the arterial streets were first cleared and safe in case of emergencies. That was the first order of business. Every street in this town received damages, anything from damages to uprooted trees and live wires. So it's important we understand first, and I think this kind of got lost in translation, it's the responsibility of each of us as residents and business owners to take care of what's on our own property. That's the way it works. But in this particular situation, the town realized that the magnitude of the damage warranted assistance. There was just too much out there for people basically to take care of themselves, especially in town where everything's close together. Since the storm began, Public Works has been clearing streets, sidewalks, and more, and they're now working diligently on cleaning up all the debris that is on the sides of the streets. They've advised us that because of the amount of debris, it may take up to a month to collect and dispose of everything, so we need to be patient as they work their way through each of the streets. Each resident and business in the town of Yarmouth is to have their debris, the trees, branches, etc., safely and neatly curbside no later than Monday, July the 14th. While the crews will be working in various places throughout the town until then, after that date, they will go through the streets, but they won't backtrack to pick up any of the storm debris that was placed after next Monday. So you can still put your debris out until Monday, but after that, they'll start in one place and they'll go through just like they do on garbage days and collect, but they won't backtrack for that. You can still use your green bins, and that works as usual. And most important, there's no charge for bringing wood debris to the solid waste park. Finally, we encourage anyone who has the means to get the debris to the solid waste park themselves to please do so. Public Works is doing their best, but every bit of help makes a difference. We're aware of some who have rented wood chippers already. Many are bringing loads out in their personal vehicles, and the town thanks you for doing that. But the cleanup will take basically a month, everything roadside by next Monday, and we're working through it. Was there anything, go ahead, that I missed? And then,
No, just, I got an update from Public Works late this afternoon. They made great progress today. And so the 1 month estimate was, came yesterday at the end of day. Considering everything else that they have to do in addition to the brush and limb removal. So a month was the estimate. We may be able to do a little better than that. We will do our best to do better than that. Right now, the material is being gathered and being stockpiled at the Public Works yard. And what will have to happen is, because the volume of it is ridiculous, it will not be reasonable for us to use our commercial chipper to chip all of that debris. And so when the solid waste park brings in a shredder to do the C&D wood and the shingles, it's going to be my recommendation, I'll confer with Mr. Ernst when he returns on Monday, that we rent or hire the shredder to do the limb and wood debris in town at that time. So it will be stockpiled for a little while out there. It is well hidden. I was out there last night and looked through it myself, and it is well hidden. It's well back in the yard, and it looks like trees. So that's the process. Now, there was a call from EMO Nova Scotia today. They're looking for information on storm damage and estimated costs of value of storm damage. So I'm working on putting together a number for them. Basically, if the storm damage within the province exceeds $1 million, there is a possibility of some compensation being available. So although the cost of this shredder is fairly expensive and the cost of this cleanup is going to be fairly expensive, we add it all up, there is a possibility we'll be able to receive some relief from the province for that effort.
thank you. Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, I've got a lot of, I should say a lot, I've got a few phone calls from citizens and passing on that how thankful they were with the Public Works Department, how quick they responded to cleaning up. I mean, it was hours after the storm subsided on Saturday that they were out there cleaning sidewalks. And it just so happened there was some in front of my home in particular that the trees were hanging from the wires and it dropped. And they were there within hours cleaning up the big debris and stuff and everything. The neighbors were just, at all that they were so quick. And this is all around town that I've got the same response from different people that called me and stopped me on the street and said how quick they were in responding to it. And that's great, and it's always nice to hear the positive. And there's always positive about our public works. One concern I have is with the Monday, this Monday. Now, what part of town are they starting from? North End, South End, Center Town, Cliff Street, Water Street? Where?
I don't know. Go ahead. Sort of be like,
They started.
Monday's Monday, but I realize
They
that.
started at the north end of town, and they started on this past Monday.
North End is
Sorry, Prospect Street.
Prospect Street.
They started-
That's great.
They started on Prospect Street. I
And-
believe they're as far as Parade Street now, or in that area. They'll
Now, hold on a second now. Excuse me for, and I apologize for interrupting. Are you saying last Monday they started?
this past Monday.
This past Monday? Or is it this Monday coming?
no, they started Monday to do the cleanup. But what'll happen is they'll go through town, get as much as they can,
Okay.
but if they started on the north end, then what's that?
Do you want me to explain?
Yeah, you can, but it's still on Prospect Street next
I
Monday when they
misunderstood.
start.
If I misunderstood,
Yeah,
which I'm sure there's a whole lot of other people probably, I'm not speaking for other people, but
no, okay.
I'm thinking you said this Monday coming.
I did.
You didn't say last Monday?
it's both, so go ahead and see.
Go ahead, if you can explain it.
What we said to people, or tried to say to people, was get your debris out by next Monday,
Okay.
okay? But some people got their debris out right away, within
Oh,
hours.
yes. Yeah, oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And so because it was there,
Yeah,
and because we know it's going to take a long time to
Yeah.
collect it all,
Yeah.
they started this past Monday with the collection. So our cutoff is Monday coming, and let's look at the calendar.
but a lot of people didn't know that, or don't know that.
Well, they'll,
No,
if they haven't got their debris out by the 14th, okay, the storm was on the 6th, 5th, okay? They're
but you're just saying this now on camera.
Right,
Okay,
okay. If they're to get their debris out to the curb by the 14th, 9 days after the storm, if it's
Okay.
there, we'll collect it.
okay.
And if we went by their place on the 7th, we're going to come back on the 14th or later
Okay,
and get whatever else they put out.
great, great. Well, that's exactly what I was asking. So, last Monday they started, and by the 14th, if it ain't out there after the 14th, they're not going to pick it up.
What we'll do is on or after the 14th, we'll go back through the town again.
I'm sure you will.
Only one time, though.
I'm sure you will.
Only one time.
I'm sure you will. Okay, great. Well, that's great. Thank you.
So, this is in the Vanguard, right? It's been on the website, it's been on CGLS. Yeah, I did the interviews and everything, so most people know, and hopefully by then, everything's clear, yeah, yeah. No, it's not just Facebook, it's CGLS and it's the Vanguard and everything else, no. Well, I can tell you one thing, the majority of people aren't counting on a town council meeting to make their decisions. Oh, help me. Okay, web.com I can leave because that's in the mayor's report, and the thank you to Public Works we've done, Nova Scotia. Go ahead.
I didn't want to, I could have
Sorry,
joined
I
in
didn't-
earlier
I
under
didn't see your
A,
light,
but
sorry.
I thought I would wait until C, so here we are.
Yeah.
Also, thank you to Public Works and Nova Scotia Power. They did an incredible job. I was, as everyone knows, I was not here for this storm, and I watched it. I watched the pictures being posted. I arrived Sunday, well, I came back into town Sunday, drove in late Sunday evening, and rather than going straight in a straight line home, I did take some side streets, and compared to what I saw posted, pictures of the damage that the storm had caused on Saturday, by Sunday evening, I was absolutely amazed at how organized and how clean the town really was. Yes, there were a few branches still that were hanging off of wires, and there are still a couple of cemeteries that need some attention. But for the most part, it was incredible how quickly this town had pulled itself together. Not only do we thank Public Works for what they did, but also neighbors helping neighbors. Strangers walked by and asked me if I needed help. I was cleaning out people's yards. Also, we cannot forget to thank Neighbors Helping Neighbors, including Kevin, Valerie, and Dennis, I'm sorry, Sandy, Councillor Dennis's Yarmouth Improvement volunteer group. How the town has pulled itself together is just incredible. So congratulations to everyone. And if anybody complains about how long anything has taken, you can give them my home number.
Give it to them
I will.
right now.
749-1951. Just don't call with complaints.
I can't wait to redirect.
Don't call with complaints. Or I'll
Joey, did
take you out on a road trip.
wish to say something? Yep, you can come to the microphone. You had a question for us?
How about the forestry? Is that hard for it to clean up in the forestry, to plant down with trees, the wood, the trees? It's hard?
Forestry,
Yes. There's a lot of cleanup down there too, with a lot of trees go along. Can you clean up anything, so it's okay to clean up down there?
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you, Joey. Okay? Yes, sorry, missed you. Thank you very much. CEO's on first. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. There was just one thing that I wanted to add and I forgot. And that is if we could put a plea out to, and I can understand, I thoroughly understand if I had huge old trees that I was concerned about on my property, I would take full advantage of this opportunity as well. But there are a couple of few trees out there that have not been damaged by the storm, and they are being cut down for pickup, and part of me, I don't blame the people. I really, really don't. However, that is going to take up extra time from our public works, and it's going to slow down our cleaning process for the residents that really do have serious tree damage that they have to clean up. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO?
Okay, two things. Just in terms of the trees and limbs that are arriving on the street side that are not from storm damage, but rather from landscaping. When we're aware of that, our staff are going out to try and educate the people that this is a special service that's related to the storm, and we'd appreciate if they only put out the storm damaged limbs and so on. So as we're made aware of it, we're trying to be respectful of the fact that the communication has not been perfect on this, and so people see limbs out there, they might think it's a great opportunity to get rid of some extra stuff. So we're trying to be understanding, and at the same time, okay, well,
Selective hearing is what
yeah.
it's called.
So the other part is Your Worship, your item was with regard to Nova Scotia Power too, and I did want to comment on that, if I may.
Yeah, there's something in my mayor's report on that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I know that the Nova Scotia Power workers here locally have gone above and beyond. They've been working extra long shifts, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., doing their level best to restore power to everyone in the town and beyond. And there have been some problems, some frustrations, and some of that is just what happens when a system gets overwhelmed, and some of it is a result of corporate decisions and perhaps some communication issues on their part. But it is not in any way a reflection of the men and women in Nova Scotia Power who are doing their absolute best to restore power. And so some of that frustration gets directed at them because they're available, they're in your community, and sometimes that's just unfair. And so I think it's appropriate that they be thanked as well for what they're doing for us. And I just thought I wouldn't let that go.
No, good. Thank you, and rightfully so. Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. Now, I'd just like to make it clear to the media that I do prescribe to the Vanguard, and I get it every week, and I do listen to CGLS every morning for the local news. And I'm sure a lot of people do, but what I'm saying is some people, as in other communications, probably don't, and they miss what's being brought to you by CGLS and the Vanguard and other communications. So that's what I'm saying. Not everybody reads and does the same things that everybody does, and that's all I meant by it.
Yeah.
And should they? Yes, they should. Anyway, and Jeff, to get back to where you said about the, since you brought it up, and I can wait till the mayor brings it up on, thank you Public Works and Nova Scotia Power.
We're there.
You're there now?
Yeah, we're finished it.
You
actually,
finished
but
it?
if you wanna say something,
I would just like to say is I thank Jeff for what he just said about for accommodating the workers, how hard they have worked, and they have. But the corporate decisions that Nova Scotia Power has made over the years has deleted a number of experts that left and went out west, something like 25 or 30 linesmen and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why there's a long wait. But that's corporate decisions and people's decisions. But thank you.
Good. All right. Update on acoustics plan. That's you, CAO. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. This will be brief. Council gave direction to get supplementary reports and work done on 3 areas: branding, streetscapes, and facade improvement program. And I can advise you that the 3 are underway. I'll be discussing all 3 with the consultants on Monday, And after this meeting, Your Worship, I would appreciate a chance to meet with council as a steering committee on those projects with some very specific questions, just for direction, if that is, if we get out of here in a decent hour.
We're doing our best.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Councillor Mooney, thanks re Healthcare Services. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion that the town of Yarmouth send our heartfelt thanks to Gerald Pache, Board Chair of the former District Health Authority, and all former members for their volunteer contributions and their dedication to promoting wellness and improved health care services.
I'll second that. Moved and seconded. Question? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Councillor Mooney, District Health Authority.
Thank you, Your Worship. In light of recent admissions by Minister of Health Leo Glavine that disbanding district health authorities will not achieve the financial threshold as originally stated, the town of Yarmouth requests that Minister Glavine stop this arbitrary and unnecessary process, as disbanding this district health authority not only puts Yarmouth at a disadvantage when recruiting and retaining health professionals, it also takes away our local decision-making capabilities. The town of Yarmouth would also like Minister Glavine to explain the savings that will be achieved by this process and how this process will better our health care concerns for the southwestern region of Nova Scotia.
So moved. Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Councillor Mooney, you are at Site of Amalgamated Authority.
Thank you, Your Worship. If the Minister of Health decides that amalgamation of the boards is the best process, we request that the Department of Health and all other related entities consider Yarmouth as a site for this new amalgamated authority. As you all know, we are the satellite campus for the School of Nursing for Dalhousie University and the Dalhousie Residency Program. We have ample support staff and facilities to house this new amalgamated entity.
So moved. Seconded.
And just to speak to that, Your Worship, as we all know that the provincial government in its infinite wisdom moved tourism to Windsor, they moved finance to Sydney, they moved fisheries to Shelburne. Why can't they move health to Yarmouth? That's right.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Notice of motion, parking. Councillor
That's, that was taken care of. That was deleted, Your
Mooney?
Worship.
Oh, yes, that's right. Assistance retrees.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion that the town of Yarmouth immediately contact Minister of Natural Resources for any financial or technical assistance in replanting and diversifying the tree species in the town of Yarmouth. This also includes tapping into the provincial tree registry as needed. Nursery.
Forestation needs. Yep. Okay. So moved. Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Fred Hatfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. I make a motion that the town of Yarmouth extend its best wishes and congratulations to Fred Hatfield on his recent retirement. Fred's dedication to his community has been second to none, and the pictorial legacy that he leaves will be enjoyed for generations to come. Fred's insights and editorials will be missed, and town council and citizens should wish him all the best. We'll wish him all the best. Thank you.
I think we all wish. I think we're all
I think
seconding
so.
that.
Go ahead.
Your Worship, I know that Fred will not take a back page to anybody. And,
Or middle page, middle page.
Or middle page. So I wish him well in his retirement, but knowing Fred, he'll never retire. You'll always see something in the editorial or on the front page, back page, or middle page, and you don't have to look very far to see who wrote what he and recognize what he writes. So anyway, Fred, to you and your wife, I wish you the best, and I look forward to seeing you in the paper. Congratulations.
That you subscribe to. Yes. You need to start reading it. Okay. So moved and seconded? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Reports, council advisory committees, committee of the whole, deputy mayor. Now, for some reason, why don't I have that? because they're under Councillor Mooney's papers here. Okay, so we're at June 23rd, 2014. Sorry, Deputy, go ahead.
We're fine. I move that staff be directed to request proposals from Acoustics for supplementary reports for branding, streetscape improvements, and a facade improvement program.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion? Better not discuss it because it's done. Call for the question? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Committee of the Whole, June 26, 2014.
First one, I move that the order for 56 Argyle Street be extended by 28 days.
So moved and seconded. Councillor Mooney, do you
Second,
want to speak to that?
yeah, I'd like to speak to that because I think that's brought up later. It's one of the additions I brought up to
it
the
is,
agenda,
yes.
but I think we can discuss that. To the CAO and to the solicitor. So we granted the person that owns the property another 28 days to, and when I was sitting around the table, I thought it was for safety concerns. The place was opened up, there was no boards on the window, and kids and people are just going off the street, going in the property. The decision that we made last committee of the whole, does that extended to 28 days, but does that give him the opportunity to extend this another 365 days to rectify the problems of that building? No. No?
CAO?
No, excuse me, no, you granted him an additional 28 days. And so by the Committee of the Whole meeting later this month, that time will be up, and we'll have a report, and you specifically requested our bylaw enforcement officer be present to report to you on whether or not he has complied with the order. If he has not complied with the order, then you have the option of ordering demolition or ordering the work to be completed. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, so the demolition's already been ordered, so you'd have the opportunity to do nothing, and the demolition order would go ahead, or to order a further extension or some modification of certain work to be done.
So him securing the property is just securing the property. It doesn't give him any extension of any type. So the
Other
order...
than the 28 days
Okay.
for the
Good.
demolition.
Are you thinking?
No, I just had a question from a citizen today that the person, and I don't know who's doing the work on the property, but they said that work that they were doing on that property, securing that building, gave them 365 days. And that's the only question I had, because the question we had at the last committee of the whole, that was not part of the discussion, and that person had that question for me, and they talked to the person that was working on that building. So that was just a question from a citizen, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything in the last committee of the whole, and I basically almost knew what I was thinking about the last committee of the whole meeting. I was on the right track, so I was more concerned about the safety of the property, people getting in there, and I know we had the fire chief at the last committee of the whole meeting with securing the property and him being scared about vandalism or fire in there, so, and not knowing who's in the building when it happens.
I couldn't read where you're coming from. Good question. Now, I had a slew of lights on. Yours is still on.
Yep.
Councillor McIsaac, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Mooney, but yeah, you're right about the 28 days, but you're also right about the 365 days. Now, what that gives him is 28 days to board up the windows and board up the doors, but that also gives him 365 days to leave his property exactly as it is. It's secure. Well, no, yeah, that's right, to secure it. And yeah, well, I might be mistaken. I'm not a solicitor, but well, he is, yeah. So, is it that he boards the windows up, boards the doors up, and within the next 28 days, then after that 28 days, it's secure, is it still deemed unsightly and dangerous? Yes or no? Or does he have another 365 days that it comes back before council, and comes back before council because you're only allowed a year at a time before you have to take the boardings off the windows and replace what's ever there with glass and whatever? Am I wrong or am I right?
Somebody give me a light?
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Not for a cigarette, just for, so, go ahead, solicitor.
What you're talking about is him applying for a permit to board up the building, which would be good for 365 days. To my knowledge, I don't know whether he's applied for one or not, but that wouldn't invalidate the order that this council has made to demolish the building. I don't have that order right here, but unless he complies with the order within
But what is the order? Do we know, CAO, what the order was for him, what he has to do? And I apologize, Solicitor, for not asking you perhaps the correct question, but the CAO, what the order was.
Go ahead, CAO.
Okay, the order read, on May 14th, an inspection was carried out on the premises located at 56 Argyle Street, Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, and was determined to be dangerous and unsightly set out in the meaning of the Municipal Government Act. Further take notice, the only way to remedy the situation is to repair or replace all windows and doors that are boarded up and or damaged. Repair front and east side exterior sills that are rotten/decayed and replace front steps. Further take notice that these repairs are required to be completed on or before the 30th day of June 2014. Failure to complete these repairs by this date will result in the town taking the necessary action to demolish the premises and the cost being added to the tax bill of the property under section 348.
Okay, so that says either boarded up windows or repair windows? Is that to our discretion or his?
It says the only way to remedy the situation is to repair or replace all windows and doors that are boarded up and or damaged.
Okay. So he has to replace the, are we saying that he has to replace the windows and doors? Is that what it reads? I don't know, maybe I'm just asking the question, because I think that's what it says.
It says the only way to remedy the situation is to repair or replace all windows and doors that are boarded up and or damaged.
Okay, so solicitor, could you interpret that for me so I know what it is and we all know what it is?
You're on.
He has to repair, fix the window or replace, put a new window or door that is damaged or boarded up. So anyone that's presently boarded up or damaged in some way that has to be repaired or replaced. Plus there was a reference to rotten sills.
Okay.
If he could come to council, if he boarded up the entire building, he could come to council and say, I've boarded up the entire building. In my opinion, it's safe, and I've applied for a permit to have a boarded up building, and ask you, council, if that's satisfactory. And that would have to be council's decision at that time. But right now, there's an order to demolish that he has 28 days to comply with the existing,
He has to satisfy,
unless he complies with that order that the CAO just read.
Okay, so it's not him going there and boarding everything up?
No,
Okay.
no. You, council would have to specifically grant him, like I said, either a further extension, or you'd have to be satisfied with the work that he did in order to lift the order, or you would have to take some action, because right now it's scheduled to be demolished, but you wanted 28 days to
Okay.
review it. Or
My
to
question
review
is,
it in 28
oh,
days.
great, thank you. My question is to Councillor Mooney. Councillor Mooney, is that what you thought? Because I thought it was just boarding up. What was your thought on that? Was your thought on replacing all the glass and doors and
Well,
windows?
I know what the order is.
Okay.
And we were giving the gentleman, basically what happened in the last committee, the whole meeting, he was representing his mother who owns a building. And he was just trying to, our main concern at that time was safety.
That's right.
Give him an opportunity to see if they could sell the building
Yeah.
or dispose of it some
Okay.
other way. And the resort for me, the last resort for me was tearing it down. If tearing it down is going to be what's going to happen, it's going to happen. But we gave him 28 days to consult with his mother to see if they had an opportunity to sell the building, give it to a relative, do anything with it. But I was more concerned about safety issues. The fire chief was here that day, and I was more concerned about somebody being hurt in the building, especially being open. I know what the order says now. I remember it. And, but in 28 days, if that order's not complied with, to the satisfaction of our bylaw and building inspector, it's not up to his discretion, it's up to the discretion of the bylaw enforcement of the town or the building inspector that those aren't carried out properly, then I'll be voting to tear down the building.
Okay, and I thank you to the CAO and to the solicitor, because I pretty much misinterpreted at the last meeting. I misread what was being said about, I thought he just wanted to board things up. And I thought that we gave him pretty much the okay to board things up, and that would be good. And I seen some activity there today, and I think they were taking boards down. I don't know if they were repair windows or whatever, but I just happened to drive by. So, and anyway, I had to ask the question, and the solicitor explained it very, very carefully and very, very well. Thank you.
Councillor Dennis, you're on.
I drove down by that building today, actually, and took a look at it, and the front step is falling off. And also, there was windows actually open. The basement window was out, and there was another window open. And it was funny that I had done that, and I had to go somewhere else, but then I drove by that building and looked at it. When I came back to the store, actually, a gentleman came in. He was a little upset about that building and telling me about it, and that he's had to go there a few times because children have been up on second floor and then getting up on the roof and everything, and he's had to get them out of there. So it is dangerous, and so I feel the way that Councillor Mooney does, if he doesn't fix it, that we're going to have it tear down.
Good. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I followed this as the meeting was being streamed on the 26th of June, and I thought to myself, I have to take my hats off to all my colleagues around the table, because you have incredibly soft hearts. I kept shaking my head. I kept thinking very realistically, as one can do when we are not right face to face with. What just went off?
The air conditioning.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
When you're not in the eye of the storm. I understand that the family is going through hardship. My heart goes out to you. My heart, however, stopped somewhere between the last 2 years. The building has been in disrepair for 2 years. He's had a lot of time. Not only what I am very concerned about is the fact that this is not the only building that is going to be on this particular roster. Apparently the family owns a number of buildings, so we are going to be faced with this over and over again. Rather than just voting nay, I wanted to take this time to explain the reason why I will be voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you. So the motion's on the floor that the order for 56 Argyle Street be extended 28 days. And who seconded that? Did somebody second it?
I'll second.
You want to second it? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Go ahead, Deputy.
I move that correspondence be sent to Peter Stauffer providing information on what has taken place to date on the Sarah Corning Commemorative Street.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that the correspondence from Feed Nova Scotia be received and placed on file.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that the request from the Coal Shed Music Festival 2014 to hold mini concerts in Frost Park and Alma Square be accommodated.
Moved and seconded. Mr. DeMille was in, I think it was yesterday, and he said, did you ever take care of that request? And I said, once once I pass it on, whether it's to the CAO or anywhere else, you probably had this discussion with them, so then it goes out of my head if it's taken care of. But I hadn't realized it landed here. So moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary?
I
Motion
move that the
carried.
town of Yarmouth contribute $500 towards the AMA Fall Convention being held in October in Digby.
So moved and seconded. Discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that the town of Yarmouth support the Pleasant Valley Lakers funding request in the amount of $1,540.
Moved and yeah. Go ahead.
Just clarification, Your Honor, there's one team from Yarmouth that's not going, but the other team from Pleasant Valley is going, and they're going to be representing Yarmouth, and they will also be distributing brochures, pamphlets, and information for next year's National Over 35 Baseball Championships being held here in Yarmouth. So it's all it is just kind of transferring money from one team that wasn't going that we approved to another one that is.
Good. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that the town of Yarmouth support the Tri-County Regional School Board in the site selection process and send correspondence to Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal and the Minister of Education with copies to MLA Zach Churchill and the Tri-County Regional School Board.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move that the town of Yarmouth send correspondence to the Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission, read the priority list for wharf and port upgrades, to update this list and present MP Greg Kerr for infrastructure funding, and that the chairperson and mayor be the lead role in this process.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
The ninth and last item, I move that the town of Yarmouth reaffirm support of the Parade Street location for the new elementary school with copies to Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal, Tri-County Regional School Board, and the School Advisory Committee for Central School, and MLA Zach Churchill.
I have a question. Why is this not going to the Department of Education?
Because they don't build the school, they don't, infrastructure renewal is the one that's going to be taking care of the school.
Good, that answers it. Moved and seconded? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you, Deputy. Citizen Advisory Committee's Planning Advisory. Okay, so we've got three here. Medical marijuana facilities.
So from the PAC meeting of the 24th of June, I move to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, amend the MPS and the LUB to enable the establishment of a medical marijuana facilities within wholly enclosed buildings in the general industrial M1 zone and the waterfront industrial M2 zone and the commercial industrial CI4 zone, excluding the Forest Street CI4 zone, the former Forest Street Industrial Park area as outlined in our planner's report.
So moved. Do we have a seconder? I'm going to say this for to get the discussion going, if there's going to be one. I'm not going to support it with the waterfront industrial in there. I just have a hard time with everything we're trying to do on the waterfront. There's plenty of space for this type of facility to go. We've got some great property out there, and I'm just not willing to vote for taking up any space on the waterfront for any more industrial. That's just my vote, though. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. You took the words right out of my mouth, although I'm not anywhere near as eloquent as you, so thank you very much for saying it for me. I also will not, I have a very difficult time as soon as I read the waterfront industrial M2 zone, that, no, I don't see it down there either. If anywhere I could, I saw it in the old Allwoods building. And I don't know how to go about this.
Your worship,
everyone else can-
Councillor Dawes can make an amendment to the motion if she wishes.
Thank you. That's what my question was going to be. How do you want me to go about it? I would make that amendment, Linda, but I will wait until the CAO speaks,
Councillor
because you may
Mooney.
have something to add.
Okay, CAO, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So you have a recommendation from the Plan Advisory Committee on this. And it's been moved and seconded?
Yes.
Yes.
So at this point, if we were going to amend the motion, it would be, a motion would be required to amend it, and if you were removing the waterfront industrial M2 zone, that would be the motion.
To remove.
To amend the motion to remove waterfront industrial M2 zone.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm reading this and trying to listen to you at the same
Yeah,
time.
I'm writing it down.
But I'm
Go ahead.
also reading here that the commercial industrial, the C14 zone, excluding the Forest Street zone. The former Forest Street Industrial Park area, okay. I will go with the majority. I will not, well, I think I'm just about to contradict myself. I will not support this. Unfortunately, I could not attend, and I just have too many questions. So my fault I wasn't there. Well, not really my fault, but it's just unfortunate I wasn't there. I have too many questions, so no, I will not support this. However, I do wish to submit the, what did you say?
Are you making a motion to amendment to the motion?
Amend, yes, the amendment to exclude the waterfront industrial zone. Or maybe we should just, maybe we should just give it back to PAC.
Are you making, okay, I need to know what
It
you're
don't make
doing.
any sense.
Are you making a motion to amend, are you amending the motion to remove the
make
waterfront
any
M1 zone?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, please. We all want to go home.
Somebody want to second that?
Of course not. I made the motion.
No, that's,
It's got
I'd
nothing,
second it if I could, believe me. Okay. Councillor Mooney, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the Planning Advisory Committee spent a lot of time on this. The districts that they exclude, I think, are well thought out. You know, the 4th Street one and the one down at the other end of water. But I think if they used a facility like the old cotton mill, just to say it, I don't have a problem with that. Or farther down towards the other end, just on the other side of where Garbo, where Bobby Newell is, there's a couple buildings down there that somebody owns. Like it says, fully enclosed, so you don't know if they're in there, if they're welding, if they're, this is a well-regulated industry. We shouldn't have to put up any barriers for any company that wants to come in here and set up a company and wants to provide jobs to Yarmouthians, but you know, it says fully enclosed. They're very well regulated and very well governed. So to say that we're taking up extra space on the waterfront to do this, that's not quite true, because we'll probably already be, they won't be putting up new buildings to do this. They'll probably be looking at infrastructure that's already up in place. So if somebody comes in and wants to take the cotton mill off our hands and wants to put a medical marijuana plant in there, baby.
go for it.
Have we got a deal for, have we got a deal for you? So excluding the waterfront, just to say excluding the waterfront because it's pretty, and I know we don't own much property on the waterfront, but we own in behind the cotton mill. We could do things with that. We're looking at, Councillor Dennis has the sitting park in South End. We have a couple of ideas for that through Communities in Bloom that include the waterfront, but I think the Planning Advisory Committee hashed this out well, and I think the deputy mayor might agree with me that. Pardon me?
Hashed it out well. That's
Hashed it out well. Well, okay, good one.
Didn't even
Hashed
know.
it out well, and any opportunity we have to create employment, to make Yarmouth unique, and to fill our waterfront and our structures down there, I won't be supporting the amendment, but I will be voting for the original.
The amendment didn't get seconded, so.
It didn't get seconded, so you could save yourself all the
Okay,
all
so
that
we
breath.
have Councillor McIsaac. I think
Thank you, Your
were on
Worship.
next.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a shame that the councillor wasn't there to get the particulars of what was happening at the PAC meeting, and she had, other business, so that's fine. But just to say no on the fly because she doesn't agree, and I don't know if you said you've been watching it on stream and online, but just to say no because it's in the Industrial Commission. Industrial Commission means that it's a park. It's in the industrial park. Not so much industrial park, but it's an industrial area along Water Street. There's a lot of private property there that people own that have big chunks of land that they could house this marijuana grow facility. Waterfront is a working waterfront. And not only the cotton mill, which sell it for $1 if anybody's interested in buying it, but nevertheless, it's from north end to south end, and center town. It's all one end of Yarmouth to the other end of Yarmouth, and it's open for business. And to exclude it and say not on Water Street, it's a working Water Street. It's all enclosed. It's in house. You don't have to, unless there's a big sign on there that says, I grow tomatoes or I grow cucumbers, nobody's going to know. Unless there's a big lobster pound there. Nobody knows that this is probably one of the biggest lobster pounds probably this side of Halifax. It holds more than probably 1 million pounds of lobsters at one given time. A lot of people don't know that, but they are there. They're having tours next week on Seafest. And to say that, well, it's not good for Water Street, but it's good for out on 4th Street or Allwood product. It's good out there. It's real good out there, but I don't want it in my backyard, or I don't want it on Water Street. We have lots of ships come in there. We have lots of different entities that come in and out of the Port of Yarmouth, different businesses that come and go in town of Yarmouth. It's a working Water Street. It's an industrial place in the town of Yarmouth. Either it's somebody wants to come and open up a business. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to be the one that vote against it from coming into Yarmouth. And I'm not going to make any motions to say that I don't want it there on the whim of some other councillor saying, well, if you want to make a motion, make a motion. I'm not going to do that. And I don't think anybody should. Either you were at the meeting, councillor, with all due respect, you were there. If you was there, you should, in all due respect, make a motion if you're not happy with it. But you wasn't there. And nor should you make the motion. I don't think. That's what I'm thinking.
But she did make an amendment and didn't get seconded.
No,
So
that's right. That's right. But that's all I'm saying. But far as it being on Water Street, it's a working Water Street. It's an industrial place in the town of Yarmouth. It just happens to have that name that a lot of people don't like, marijuana. Well, no, that's what I think. Maybe that's not what you think, Your Worship. That's entirely to everybody around this table to have their own opinion on whatever. But I would not like to think that that would be a stoppage for anybody having the opportunity to open up a business. Thank you.
I think we're projecting here a little.
Oh, Councillor Dennis?
Yes, Councillor Mooney brought up the point that I wanted to make on the cotton mill because I think that's an excellent location for it, so I definitely support it. We brought that up at the PAC as well, and so we have a building sitting down there that will be an excellent space for something like this. I don't think we're going to be building any new building down there to have a grow up, so if we can use what we have.
You do.
Well, when we look at things, people are always talking.
You just
No, but we're.
don't know.
No, we're not going to, no. But we need jobs here, and if we want to go forward, we have to start opening up and open them doors, like you said. And so I fully support this.
Good? You good? Okay.
I turned my light off so everyone else could have a chance.
So we're still on the original motion? Right?
Yeah.
Okay? So the motion is as the deputy read it. Any further discussion?
That's on the recommendation of the PAC.
Yep. that's what it is, as it was, okay? Question's been called, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Nay? We're probably thinking alike tonight.
That's fine.
Oh, it goes
Bad.
through. It goes through, yeah. I just, no, I didn't think. Okay, Deputy Mayor?
Second of three items, I move to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, amend the the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw to establish a protocol for the siting of telecommunication facilities as outlined in the planner's report. If someone would second that, there will be some discussion.
Yeah, you want to, CAO? Yeah.
Thank you, Worship. I wanted to speak against this, or at least provide some information that I believe goes against this. I did so at the Planning Advisory Committee, and so it's just a rehash, if you will, of that. Industry Canada has a protocol for siting telecommunications towers. That protocol was negotiated or developed in concert with FCM on behalf of municipalities. It requires public consultation. It is a clear process that the telecommunication industry is familiar with. This proposal really proposes to create an additional layer of I guess, hoops for the industry to jump through when ultimately Industry Canada has the decision-making authority. The local council does not have the decision-making authority, even if we have this in our bylaw. It just means that we run the process instead of Industry Canada. Industry Canada's protocol, they did a presentation I informed you of a couple months ago in Hebron about their protocol, and Bell was present, and they talked about it from the industry perspective. And the only thing within this report that I think really has the ability to add value without adding red tape is that if you were to say that you would not allow telecommunications towers within the residential designation, okay? If you made that statement within your land use bylaw, then it's clear to Industry Canada and clear to the telecommunication companies that those areas are off limits for towers. Towers aren't so much an issue in town, honestly, because they're able to find structures to attach antennas to, such as the Grand Hotel. Several telecommunication antennas on their rooftop, none of which require any public consultation. So they just simply contact someone with a tall building, and they arrange for a lease or an arrangement, and they attach their antenna, and the community never knows. The only issue is really the tower, the standalone tower above a certain height. So if we're interested in not creating additional layers of red tape and bureaucracy, then I would suggest you make one simple statement in your land use bylaw prohibiting these towers within the residential designation, and leave the consultation process to Industry Canada.
Councillor
You're like-
Isaac, go ahead. And then Deputy Mayor, you want to speak after Councillor McCarthy?
Thank you. CAO, there was some information just come out online, the FCM. There's meetings around the province that the province is holding, and there was one in Yarmouth also about the communication towers and facilities and that, public meetings. And, you know, there was going to be one at the Grand for the public to attend on the communications. And this would be the same thing as having towers. Are you talking about freestanding towers? Like if they wanted a freestanding tower in Frost Park, for instance. I'm only saying Frost Park, or it could be down on Water Street, Lansby owned down there, or wherever that the town of Yarmouth owns land. But you're not suggesting that at the Grand or at some other private building that commercial building somebody owns, that they could have a tower put up there. You're not opposed to that, but is it the freestanding tower on town land? Is that what you're getting at? Or do you remember getting the email just yesterday or the day before? Are you talking about that? Is that what you're referring to?
Let me clarify. Yeah, so Industry Canada doesn't require any consultation for antennas. Okay, so you have a standing structure. If they want to put if Bell or Eastlink or TELUS came to the town council and said, look, we'd like to put an antenna on the rooftop of your building, and we were agreeable to that, there's no requirement for public consultation because it's not creating new structure. The only thing that they require public consultation on is standalone towers.
Okay, that's
and
okay.
you know, the ones with the flashing lights and so on.
Yep.
So if one of the telecommunication companies deemed it necessary for the provision of their services to site a tower anywhere within the town of Yarmouth, on town land or on private land, Industry Canada has a protocol for how they must consult with the community, with the citizens about that tower, and how they must respond to concerns. And then if they give them an approval, and it's Industry Canada that gives the approval, they need to build a tower within 2 years or it's wiped out. Industry Canada requires, so in order for coverage of wireless services, if there is a tower within the area that a company wants to put a tower, they make them go first to try and maximize the use of an existing tower. So they're within the industry, they have to cooperate. So if Eastlink puts up the tower and Bell wants an antenna on it, they're required to allow them to do that.
So this here application is submitted by the town of Yarmouth?
Yes.
And
it dates back several months.
Okay.
Before we had the information from Industry Canada, which came in the form of a presentation.
So why are we going forward with this evening?
Well, it came up to the PAC because it was initiated there was a discussion at the PAC months ago. The PAC requested that the report be done. The report was done.
Okay.
Came forward. I spoke to it at the PAC, much as I am right now.
Yeah.
And the motion was made to recommend the council.
And you're advising council not to go forward with this at this
I'm
time?
advising council as I advised the committee. I feel that there's a redundancy that's being created here that is unnecessary, that doesn't add any value.
Okay.
We don't have the authority to say yes or no. What we have the authority to say is if there are specific areas, and I'm thinking like heritage designated areas, that we might want to say no towers there. And I would go so far as to say nowhere within the residential designation. It's just not necessary. And there's enough commercial designated area within the town where if they needed to put a tower, might be more acceptable. But still, in those cases, citizens could have their say.
I agree. I sometimes criticize you for not speaking up enough. This is one time that I won't criticize you because I'm glad that you are speaking. No, I'm glad that you are speaking up because it's information that I always seek from your knowledge and your wisdom, and I will not be supporting this on your recommendation. And I thank you for enlightening me on your thoughts and what you brought to the PAC, and I thank the PAC for bringing it forward for our information. But I will not be supporting this. Thank you, CAO.
So, Your Worship, procedurally to achieve the goals, and I agree with Jeff, when you call for question on the motion, we're going to vote nay.
Okay, so it's been moved, seconded, question's been called. All those in favor? Contrary?
Nay.
Motion defeated. Go ahead, CAO.
Just on that, there is a piece that I think is worthy of considering, and with your support, I'll bring that back to the PAC for a prohibition within the residential designation for consideration.
Good. Thank you, CAO. Deputy Mayor.
I move to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, enter into an amendment to the development agreement as amended with the owner of 187 Argyle Street to permit a maximum of a 21-room boarding/rooming house as outlined in the planner's report.
Second. Moved and seconded. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question is to the CAO. CAO, you probably were at this meeting. Do you see any problem, foresee any problem with this, a 21-room rooming house? Is it a rooming house, a senior rooming house, or is it, it's for seniors?
It's
It doesn't say that.
new beginnings.
The New Beginnings, that's the, yeah, okay, 187.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was.
Then-
How many rooms do they have there now?
15 or 16.
15 to 16? And they want to go for 21?
So the way this original development agreement was done, and I think this may be the first or second amendment to their development
Yes,
agreement.
Yep.
it's the second, I think.
Second. So the original one was done specifically for what they were asking for. There was no additional ability other than what they wanted to do at that time. came
They
in
want
and
5 more rooms.
Right, so,
Yeah.
so now they've got another idea, and this would allow them to achieve that. And so, I guess the original agreement was well, it was new to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so, rather than giving them permissions beyond what they actually wanted to do,
Yeah.
to protect maybe concerns in the neighborhood, it was written to just simply do only what they wanted to do then.
Yeah.
Business has been good, they want to expand, we've had no issues with the facility there or anywhere else where we have them in town. And so the PAC was recommending this proceed, and I see no issues with it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more, go ahead.
No,
Deputy.
it's been moved and seconded.
Yep. Any more questions been called? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. That's the 3. Reports for information, Western County Regional Library. I've got a mayor's report. I didn't do one last month. Okay, July 2014. As Arthur came through last week, he thought he would get the best of us. Instead, he brought out the best in us. A sincere thank you to the businesses that provided free coffee, hot showers, food, and more, and to the members of this community who stepped up to help neighbors, family, and friends by any and all means possible. You make a difference. As I write this, many are still without power. Reinforcements were arriving today from Maine to assist Nova Scotia Power. They came over on the Digby Ferry. In the meantime, cleanup efforts continue, and as Public Works advised, it may be a month before all debris is cleared away. We need to be patient. Groups of citizens are doing cleanups in places including the Cenotaph, Yarmouth South Playground, and some of the parking lots, and we extend our thanks. Councillor Dennis and her team. When you see Public Works or citizens groups doing their thing, feel free to send a wave and a smile their way. As a matter of fact, I don't think any of them would say no to cookies or coffee. We continue to move forward as a community. At the March meeting, Council agreed to take back the acoustics plan, Yarmouth's downtown blueprint, and began to work in earnest towards seeing more of this plan come to life. Council recently sat with the company that wrote the plan, did a review, and have a go-forward plan in place. Over the summer and into the fall and next spring, we'll see bump outs, greenery, benches and trees, branding that includes beautiful new consistent signage, and more come to life. We're also committed to a facade program that will give downtown Yarmouth a fresh and welcoming look. More details will follow on these projects. These steps in the acoustics plan are a huge undertaking both financially and time-wise, but this council is up to the task of ensuring the blueprint comes to life. While some will say the plan had to be taken off the shelf and dusted off, it's important to note the Waterfront Development Corporation did a great deal of work implementing elements of the plan, including such things as the farmers market, which is vital to this town. We look forward to a continued partnership with WDC. Thank you to those who did the transit study and survey, otherwise took part in the study. The company was pleased by the number of responses, and the timeline indicates that we should have a report very soon. Did you get that report yet? Not yet, on the transit study? That should be out by the end of the month, I believe. Further decisions will be made from that point. In the meantime, a number of bus stop signs have been replaced by one-hour parking signs. There's good news from the Nova Star that they're getting up to 1,000 calls a day. As expected, numbers went up considerably after the 4th of July, and we're seeing 500 people and 150 vehicles crossing. Trucks are finding their ways onto the ship as well in increasing numbers, saving time and making their travel safer. Thank you to those who have been open since mid-May when the first visitors came over. You've set the bar high, but there's still much to be done. Thousands upon thousands of people will come to Yarmouth during the next couple months. And while they're enjoying our beaches and other outdoor experience during the day, in the evenings they enjoy museums, eating, and shopping. I've had quite a number ask why many of our businesses are not open in the evenings, and so I will say this respectfully. Yarmouth, we have one last chance at this. Don't forget what it was like not to have the ship here. We now have visitors who want to eat in our restaurants, shop in our stores, and stay in our B&Bs. Don't take them for granted. If we're not all in, we all lose. Quite a number of businesses are hiring extra people for the summer season. That in itself is a boost to our economy. And as things begin to slowly change, we will have what should be considered a good problem to deal with. I was at NSCC today and was advised that employers are calling about jobs, but there are not enough people to fill them. This is a discussion that Council will be having very soon. With jobs for everything from electricians to carpenters to healthcare workers open, I believe it's time to reach out to our own family members who have gone west and see how we can bring them home. Lots more is happening. Web.com is working diligently towards having the town of Yarmouth the first town with 100% businesses online. If you're contacted by them, our sincere hope is that you jump on board. This is not just a fun local project. The implications are global in nature. To be able to claim first 100% online will be advertised worldwide, and as we continue to work towards drawing industry and business here, they will view us as leading edge. It's not something to pass off, but something to take advantage of. As well, Web.com will be doing a business directory free of charge, and they'll be contacting every business. If you're not contacted, please contact them. Everyone has a part to play. More news, a new airport manager has been hired and efforts there are ongoing. The Western Regional Enterprise Network is off the ground and working on economic development initiatives for our region. And locally, the application process is closed for the hiring of an economic development officer for the town of Yarmouth. The Entrepreneurs Forum will be held in October. The Dalhousie Residency Program has begun, and we welcome the 5 doctors and their respective coaches to Yarmouth, and it was a great barbecue. Councillor Mooney and I attended that, and they were really welcomed in fine fashion. The Multicultural Festival, Seafest, Coal Shed, and more are just around the corner. Businesses are beginning to open, and Giant Tiger's opening in the spring. Doesn't get better than that. It would take much more space to detail everything that's going on, but what I see most prevalent is a change of attitude. Those who believe in this community are full steam ahead. She's a big ship to turn around, but the majority of us feel it's turning. That's it for this month. Tina, I'll get that to you right away. Questions for committee chairs? Anyone? Additions. So we are on CAO, Tri-County Multicultural Festival signage proposal. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. The Tri-County Multicultural Festival is this weekend, and they would like to place some directional signs throughout the town. Council has the authority to grant that permission and has so in the past, and so I'd urge you to grant the permission for the signs as they've outlined in their submission. In addition to that, there is another request on the front page of their submission that you can deal with tonight, or you can defer and deal with another time. And I say that only because it's a financial request and it's coming at the last minute. They're looking for up to $500 to help with the installation of brackets on 2 buildings in the downtown that have allowed for them to have a banner going across Main Street. And they are quite open to and supportive of the idea of those brackets being used by other festivals and events in town as a way of promoting those activities, and so they have a request for that as well. So it's 2 things: a request for permission for the off-site signage for the festival, and secondly is the request for the funding to support the festival banner brackets.
Two different. So I'll first entertain the motion for the Tri-County Multicultural Festival to on the signage, that signage be placed throughout the town. Okay, so moved. Do I have a seconder? Moved and seconded. Discussion, and I've got some lights.
Thank you, Your Worship. I read this. The $500 concerns me.
Okay, we're dealing with,
Go ahead. We're not dealing with the first one?
we're dealing with the signage right
Okay,
now.
okay, go ahead. Okay.
But keep your light on.
Yep.
Okay, so the signage, any more discussion? Are you
Question.
talking about are you asking about the signage, Councillor Dodd?
Am.
Okay,
Question,
go
yeah.
ahead.
How much time are we giving the festival to leave the signs up? By what date? By what time do these have to be removed and off lawns? Do we know this yet?
Come right down, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't recall what the provision is in our bylaw, but I could look that up for you. There is a provision in terms of how long they can stay up.
And they have someone looking after that, I think.
Thank you.
They have a summer student. Good, so the motion's on the floor, any more discussion?
Question.
Question's been called, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, contrary, motion carried. And the second motion will be to provide up to $500 for brackets installed to hold banners across Main Street. Does that sound right? Go ahead.
Yeah, the request is for up to 500. I would suggest that you make a specific grant amount if you're going to do that. And just on that, so you know, the traffic authority has granted permission for the banner to be across Main Street. There's some question about that in the past, and we've had them in other areas, but the permission's been granted there. I'm not sure that the town wants to have any continued involvement with the brackets. You know, those are being put up by a third-party contractor at the request of the Multicultural Festival. If they want to let other organizations use their banner brackets, I think that is up to them and the property owners. It's subject to permission from the traffic authority for the placement of those banners. I think other than that, our involvement, if we provide them with a grant, that should be the end of our involvement.
Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, and to the CEO, and to fellow councillors, they apply to grants organizations, and we did give them grant money for the Agricultural Society. Now they're asking for additional $500, and this is, no, they're not?
No, she asked if it was, you said
Agricultural
Agricultural
Society.
Society, but you
Agricultural
didn't mean
Society.
that. You meant Tri-County Multicultural.
Multicultural, yeah. Multicultural, yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I stand corrected. Anyway, they were supplied some financial assistance. This is on and above. If any business that incurs a cost, you know, and that's what they are. They're a nonprofit organization, and I understand that, and they do great work, and they supply a tremendous venue for the town of Yarmouth. But they've already been given a grant monies, and they should take it from that instead of coming back now and asking for another $500 for their putting up their signs or whatever, a banner. They knew that going in, that that's what they wanted to do, put up a banner. This is not the first time that this has been mentioned. That this has been mentioned times before about putting up a banner at the north end, in the center town, and where have you. I will not be supporting the $500 gift of giving it to them, the Multicultural Society. They should take the monies that they get from their proceeds, and I think they have monies in their revenues that they already have. It showed it in their financial reports that they do have monies, and they should really take it from them instead of asking the town council and the taxpayers to incur the $500 cost to put up the banner. It's a nice banner. I've seen it coming here tonight, but I don't think that we should, at this 11th hour, even though the banner is up, give the $500. That's just my thought on it.
Councillor Mooney?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I support the Multicultural Festival, but coming in after the fact is kind of, you know, putting the cart before the horse. I would like to see us maybe table this motion until we get the full financial report from how the Multicultural Festival made out, and if they have the money to pay for the brackets themselves, then hopefully they can incorporate in the budget. But doing it, and it sets a bad precedent for, say the Chicks with Sticks came in and then they said, well, we got the tournament, it's going to be here on Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We put a big billboard up that we weren't going to really expect to put up, and maybe can you guys help us with that? It gives, pardon me? It's happened before, but it's starting to happen a little bit. You know what I mean? And
Are we good? I was lost for a second. Okay, question's been called. All those in favor? Contrary? Nay. Okay, motion defeated. That was the second one, right? So we're on 12B, Friends of the Art Gallery remod Lewis Street. Go ahead, CAO.
Your worship, I would recommend to you that you refer this to committee of the whole if you want to entertain the request. The request is to rename a street, and I believe that may have to be done by policy, which means you couldn't do it tonight anyway because the policy is required to be circulated 7 days in advance. So refer to committee of the whole, and we can have a discussion there and decide what to do with it.
Okay, good.
Move that motion, but one more caveat to that. If we could get information on why the street was named Hawthorne Street in the first place, there must be some history like a lot of our streets. So, and you know, just to change street names because of somebody's popularity, it's nice, but there is a history, back history. It would be like changing Willard Allen Avenue, which I would never like to see changed because there is a history there. Or Eamon's Lane or Eamon's Manor, I would not like to see changed. So Hawthorne, because I like to have it changed for somebody else's name, it's fine, but we have to have some history before we do that. So if we could get some history on that, it would be, you know, it would be good. Thank you.
Okay, so did you make the motion to
As the CAO recommended.
refer to committee of the whole? Do we have a seconder? Second? Deputy Mayor?
That's a next year's Natal Day quiz question, Danny, for Hawthorne Street.
Good. I'll go to that one.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. 12C, CT scanner. Councillor Mooney?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I don't know if it was going to be skipped over, but we had a presentation last Committee of the Whole from Paulette Sweeney Goodwin and from Shirley D'Entremont about funding or cost sharing on the CT scanner. And I know some of the other municipal units, but I'd like to make a motion that the town of Yarmouth support their funding request, but only for the year, split in 2 years for the year 2015, 2016, and 2016, 2017. So we'll split the cost over 2 years. That's for the CT scanner and for the med program at the hospital. And I talked to Paulette tonight, and they were happy with if the town of Yarmouth with that pledge. If it went over the next 2 years, they would not have a problem with that. So I didn't want to do the $69,000 all over 1 year, but put it for next year for 2015, 2016, 2016, 2017.
So we're not messing with our budget this year?
No.
Okay, Councillor Dawes?
69, I'm sorry, thank you very much. Councillor Mooney just answered my question. I was wondering how much it was going to be. So it's 69,000 over 2 years, correct? Is it?
It was just under 70,000.
Yeah. Okay. Your light's on.
Yes,
it
it
on
is.
for a reason?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I don't know how.
My light's always on for a reason. I'm home. Anyway, my question to the CAO. Pardon? No. Oh, okay. I'll second that for question, just for the sake of question. My question is for the CAO. We're here this evening, and it's brought up by Councillor Mooney to approve funding for 15 and 16, which we are running tight budgets now. I can understand where Councillor Mooney's coming from. It's a worthwhile project. But where is that going to take us in 15 and 16? What is that going to take from what we already have online for 15, 16, and 17. We've already approved budgets for down the road budgets for what we want to see. This is something that was brought in the 11th hour. Last month there was a presentation that we had from our medical facility, which everybody has sympathy for, and they're great fundraisers and what have you. But we should not be forgotten where our responsibility lies, and our responsibility lies with the town taxpayers. This, to me, is more of a provincial budget issue rather than a municipal issue. Now, that's just my thought on it. I'm not saying I'm not in support of it, which I'm not fully in support of it, to be honest. So, in 15 and 16, we have money already dedicated that we have to take from what we've already planned, monies that we allotted. So where are we going to get that money from? You have any idea, or would you like to refer this to for another time?
Yeah. So to answer your question, I guess in terms of the next 2 years, the only monies that we've projected budgets for operating and capital for the next couple of years. So what will happen is we will, next year, next December, when we start compiling the budget, if the commitment is made today to take part of the contribution to the hospital foundation, that will be one thing that will get plugged in. And what that means is at the other end of the process, when we're trying to reach a balance, that something else will not happen, or something else will be trimmed.
Yeah.
And whether that will be on the capital side or on the operating side, that will be a decision that will be council's at that time. Yeah. So does that answer your question sufficiently?
It does and doesn't. I already knew the answer before I asked the question.
I expected.
But I wanted to get it out to the public, and I'm not against the hospital foundation. I'm not. But I think this is more of putting it on the backs of the municipal taxpayers. We have a hard time struggling as we go along for street paving, for policing, for fire departments, and just everyday business. It's a good project, but I don't think it fits around this table to support a $69,000 monies to give to the hospital foundation. I'm sure if we say not at this time, thank you, but not at this time, they will find the money elsewhere. I know they will. There's lots of people that give to the hospital foundation. They're forever sending letters out to different people. I asked the question, do they send letters out to different commercial entities and different places in and about the town of Yarmouth? They really haven't fulfilled that part of what they do in the foundation. That's what they said, but they will be doing that. So I would say if they fall short in the next 2 years, and if they come back looking for $5,000 or $10,000, and we have that, perhaps we should look at it. But $69,000 to say that we should support that over the next 2 years, 2 years, if you look at it, that's, let's just round it off, let's say $35,000 a year. $35,000 a year is a lot of cash when you're putting in piping, paving, or lighting, or whatever. It's just a lot of money. So that's my take on it, Your Worship. I'm not 100% behind it.
Okay, do you want to go first?
Yeah, if you want to go, Your Worship.
I was just going to say I'm half with you. I think provincially there's money, but I'll tell you my concern from the beginning was the formula. That Argyle, Barrington, Clare, Clark's Harbour, the municipality of Yarmouth, and the town of Yarmouth, and out of all of that, we're paying almost 33%. Our numbers are a third, so I wouldn't have a problem committing to a smaller number over the 2 years, but that's it. I think it's a big chunk, and I just didn't like how the formula went. I'm more of a population, I guess, that saves us.
Well, and that's a discussion you can have with them at the hospital foundation about formula that they use. I know when Councillor Dawes ran for council, one of her main topics was medical tourism. We have over 800 people that work at that facility.
Yeah.
And I know you were at the residency program here last week. I know my brother-in-law is a doctor. I know when these guys come in, they ask about the equipment that's in the hospital. They ask about the facilities that we have. I know I got a fundraising letter from the Hospital Foundation within the last couple of months, and I know once this project is done, they're going to be working on something else. You think that we're strapped for cash? You haven't seen the provincial government. We're $15 billion in the hole in this province, and it's not getting any better. We have to, like we keep saying, we have to step up to the plate. If you don't want to vote for the motion, I don't have any problem with that, but I think we have to support what they're doing at the hospital. We've committed financially to doctor recruitment. We've doubled our money over the last 3 or 4 years to get doctor recruitment. We've worked on the residency program. We worked with the Dalhousie School of Nursing to make Yarmouth the center of health in the Western region. And I think this CT scanner is going to be another key component in getting us to the next step. We want to be a true teaching hospital. We're going to need equipment, and guess what? They're going to be coming to municipal units, and if you don't like the funding formula, I know we always go by, uniform assessment and population. Maybe we should go for that, but I think the formula that they used is visitor days from the municipal unit or the town. So I think we're the largest user, so they assigned the largest portion to us. I know I've sat on other committees with the municipality of Yarmouth, and they don't like the funding formula because they're always paying the most, and we're paying not our, what they feel is not our share. But when it comes to the hospital, I know $70,000 is a lot of money. I know they were looking for a commitment. I didn't want to see this on the back burner because this is an important piece of infrastructure for the town of Yarmouth, and people are going to be coming in from Barrington, Shelburne, Digby, Annapolis, Liverpool. They're going to be coming in here to use that, and that's just another important cog that we're going to have in our arsenal. When we go recruit a doctor or a professional to come in, we have a CT scanner. And the Hospital Foundation will be, they would like to put this one to bed and work on the next project. I know the golf tournament tomorrow, I think the money goes, Greg, for the CT scanner. That I know Paulette really well. She's related to me, and she beats the bushes, baby, for money. She's the best. She's one of the best I've ever seen. So to leave any rock unturned, Paulette doesn't do it. I can tell you that.
You, for what it's worth, you just sold me, but I will have that discussion about the formula. And it doesn't have to completely flip to population, but it's like a third out of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Like it's just. It's a little bit overwhelming, but I can have that conversation. Councillor Dennis, you're up.
I totally agree with Councillor Mooney. It's a cost to the taxpayers, but to me, it's money well spent. And I'd rather provide the service here than our seniors and everyone having to go to Halifax. So I think we should support it.
Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Phil had suggested spend the money or budget the money over a 2-year period. I suggest 3 years. I think Paulette would be in support of that. I might have even mentioned that, Phil, to Paulette in the conversation.
I could, if the seconder would agree, I'll amend it. I'll do 3 years. If that's, you talk to Paulette? Good.
Okay, good. Councillor Dawes?
20-something thousand. Well, that makes my suggestion coming up easier. Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to suggest, could we sit down? No, I mean, everybody, this is near and dear to everybody's hearts and everybody's families, everybody's relatives. And no one's going to leave the hospital in the lurch. However, I would like to be able to sit down or let the CAO and our DOF. Yes. I'm sorry, what?
CFO.
Oh,
Chief
sorry,
Financial.
CFO.
Yeah.
Sit down and tell us what the best number, sequence, time sequence would work out. I'm sorry, say what?
So the latest.
3 years, 4 years?
The 3
3? Fine. Now, do you need someone to second so you can amend it?
Councillor McIver.
All right.
Okay.
He'd never let you down.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Unanimous. Sounds good. Celtic colors. This was a good one. I like this.
Oh, that's a beauty.
Well, I like
Thank you,
this
Your Worship. As my old friend Vic Eldridge always says, I read the paper here over the last couple of weeks, and I see Celtic colors in Cape Breton got $1 million to run their program. And I was just looking, and I know I'm going to miss some. I was looking at some of our activities that we hold over a summertime. And you had some comments, as Danny calls it, on Facebook and on Facebook about some of the activities we had at Canada Day, or lack of activities. But if you go from like Shark Fest, Moppy Festival, Sea Fest, Seafood Extravaganza, the Coal Shed Festival, the Multicultural Festival, the Tuna Tournament in Wedgeport, the Abuptic Festival in Argyle, Canada Day celebrations on the waterfront and in Yarmouth South, and a big one coming up, I think, this weekend is the Sheila Pool Race. If you get together with all the organizers of these events, not you or a committee, get together with the organizers of all these events, and let's, we were ecstatic. Greg Kerr came down here and gave us $13,000 for Seafest, and they're jumping over the moon. And here in Cape Breton, the federal government gave a group for a 2-week festival up in Cape Breton $1 million. Come on now, let's look. We got a group of events that are second to none in this province. Let's get together with everybody, put together a package. Let's say, listen, let's give them each, work it out to $25,000 a weekend. Let's ask for $200,000 over a summer. You can get Phil DeMille to do, music on Main Street. We can do it here. We got the boat here now. We have the place. We already have the infrastructures of the bones already in place. I don't know what the next step is, Your Worship. I know we're getting a development officer in place, but this means jobs. This means people coming to our community. This means people staying in hotels. This means our restaurants are going to be full. This means the stores are going to be full. This means people are going to have a couple drinks or two, a couple popsicles. They're going to explore our area from... I'd just like to know what the next step is, because I think we're missing a golden opportunity. Yes, Esther? Yeah? Okay. I'll make a motion that we approach the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association with our list of festival of events for southwestern Nova Scotia to do a comprehensive plan to present to the federal and provincial governments for funding.
Yeah, so, and we're not putting a dollar figure on that, because,
No, I think,
right? Because you're saying 200,000?
No, I was just
But-
using a number.
Yeah, okay,
If I
because, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
If I can, and I think...
Somebody's light must be on. Oh, sorry.
And I think Neil and Charles out there at YESTA and our representative, our municipal representatives, I think they can come up with a number on this. I know we can tap into Events Nova Scotia. I think if we've put a comprehensive program, and I'm not saying I said a $200,000 number, but 13,000 people were happy with here for Seafest, and they're getting $1 million in Cape Breton, and they're talking about bringing in 50,000 people. But I bet you if you did all those events, we're approaching the same number.
We are approaching the same number, so we'll do that. So just for example, and people were saying, well, what are you doing over there in Boston? What are you doing? But one interview, one page in the Boston Globe, 100,000, something like that. That's just one ad. That's just one ad.
Yep.
And we need to tap into over there. So that's money too. So they won't ask small, they'll ask big. So the motion's on the floor. Do we have a seconder? Question's been called. All those in favor? Oh, hold it. CAO.
No, I was recommending that it be referred to YASTA, really, because back when YASTA was still a project of the Development Authority, there was a similar initiative, actually, that was started to be developed, and of course, history played out, and it didn't quite get developed. But that's exactly the kind of branding of our events that was being talked about. So that they'll be able to dust that off and hopefully move with it.
Good, thank you.
Good, so the motion's on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. We took the Dukeshire one off. You're good? Okay, 12F, FCM. That was Councillor Dodds.
Right.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Your Worship. I recall at the, I think it was the previous council meeting, we all, the FCM director question came up, and we were all asked to make a decision and vote on it. I was very unfamiliar with that. The information came fast and furious, and from colleagues, we voted on it. However, I'd like more information on it. I have absolutely no recollection of what information other than it's a waste of money and it's a waste of time. I don't know how much it costs. I believe we deserve and we need some recognition and some representation down here at our end of the world. And also, just this evening, we voted to give another $500 toward the AMA Fall Convention in Digby this fall. We're putting money in the right direction, but maybe in the wrong, I don't know. If you can help me out there, CAO, or move us in the right direction where we can get more information on this, so we can actually make an educated and informed decision.
Right, so the decision was made, and you'll recall that came forward. It was a verbal request. We did not have any documentation on it at the time that we made the decision not to participate. Subsequent to that, there was information that was shared. This is situation right now is that 5 out of the 6 municipal units that were asked agreed to participate. And so we're the only one that agreed not to participate. So I can go back in my emails, because I did, subsequent to the decision, receive information on it, and I said, well, council's made their decision. Sorry, what I said was that council made their decision, and so I can circulate that information if you wish.
Do you need a motion to do that?
No.
Motion to direct? No? All right.
No, if you want to,
Would you then please?
Sorry?
Would you then please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, this was already discussed and passed. We voted against it, participating. So if the council is looking for just for information, that's great. But I don't see that it warrants any bringing up unless she's serving a notice of motion she wants to reconsider. Then it's for her information. That's great. But we've already voted against it. So I just want to bring that up. We voted against it. It's already a done deal. Finished.
All the councillor wants to do is be able to make an informed decision. That's all.
Well, we already made it. I made an informed decision.
I know you're more informed than I am.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
the
I bow.
question is,
I said she doesn't.
So if you want to put that back on the table, then you do a notice of motion. Do you want to do that?
I'd like, after I have gotten the information.
Okay, all right, good. Okay.
If
Killam
that's in
Building.
agreement with my colleague across the table.
Did you have the Killam Building on?
Is that okay with you? Okay, no, just checking.
Killam Building, Councillor Dawes.
Thank you. This one is a motion.
Okay?
I move that staff arrange for an analysis of the Killam Brothers property to be undertaken, examining town council's options for use and development of the property, and that recommendations to council be brought back as soon as possible.
Second.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Question? You want me to read it again?
Yes.
I move that staff arrange for an analysis of the Killam Brothers property to be undertaken, examining town council's options for use and development of the property, and that recommendations to council be brought back as soon as possible.
Go ahead.
My question is to the CAO. Haven't we already done that? Did we already ask the CAO to do that?
Go ahead.
No, not really. We did a, we came up with the operating costs were last year for the building. I think what's being asked for here, and this comes out of a meeting that with one of the current tenants that myself and the deputy mayor